Chapter 487. After the sound of the cannons, the buildings and the ground shook violently as if an earthquake had occurred. The citizens in the city were terrified. Their blood boiled, and their ears buzzed from the sound of the cannons. Jun Changshao had already taken good care of them by setting up the cannons on the mountain outside the city. Otherwise, if the cannons were to be fired in the city, many people would vomit blood and faint from the shock. The citizens were weak, so it was normal for them to not be able to withstand the sound of the cannons. However, the ingenious Flower Palace disciples on the city walls all had decent cultivations. Yet, they were still shocked by the sound of the cannons. Zhangsun Fanghua and the other elders opened their mouths. Their cultivations were high and could withstand the impact of the sound, but they were stunned by the scene outside the city. There, 100,000 Jinyang County soldiers were preparing to attack the city. As a streak of light arced down, not only did it cause a huge explosion, but it also caused a mushroom-shaped cloud to rise. What was going on? Could it be that an expert had used an extremely high-level martial technique? Whoosh! 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 Waves of violent energy rippled out in all directions. The Italian cannons were truly powerful. However, Xiao Ziji also suffered. Even though he had plugged his ears with something, he was still shaken to the point of spinning on the spot. In the end, he sat on the ground dizzily. If it were Su Xiaoma, he would have fallen to the ground and started convulsing again. The aftershock of the explosion gradually dissipated. A crater several hundred feet deep appeared outside Qingyang City. Hiss! Xie Guangquan sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes filled with fear. What shocked and frightened him was not just the crater, but also the tens of thousands of soldiers lying outside the crater. There were many more outside. Some were killed by the aftershock and some survived by luck. However, all of them were heavily injured and moaned in pain as they lay on the ground. The most terrifying thing was inside the crater. There were shattered pieces of armor and scattered pieces of flesh. Nearly 10,000 soldiers were in the center of the explosion, and not even their corpses were left. Plop! Bai Ruihu, who had just stood up, was so shocked that he sat on the ground again. His eyes were filled with horror. 100,000 soldiers were almost completely wiped out by the explosion. The shock and impact of this was simply too great. The White Tiger Legion soldiers who hadn't participated in the battle were so scared that their scalps were about to explode. Just what was that streak of light that flew over just now? It could produce such a terrifying destructive power. At that moment, everyone in the White Tiger Legion was terrified. The Wolf Riders and Iron Bone disciples had also given them quite a shock, but it was far from being comparable to the cannon. After all, its destructive power was too great. General Bai. On the city gate tower, Jun Changshao asked, "Are you satisfied?" Bai Ruihu was not only very satisfied with the cannon blast, but he was so satisfied that his scalp went numb. Suppressing his fear, he asked in a trembling voice, Is it a martial king or above?" Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were also considering this question, but in the end, they rejected it because they did not detect any spiritual waves when the stream of light flew over. This meant that there were no experts nearby. Judging from the light just now, it seemed more like a hidden weapon. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, "Your Jinyang County has spirit core-powered throwers, magic explosive crossbows, and siege chariots. My Iron Bone naturally also has ingenious battlefield weapons." Hearing this, Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were sure that the stream of light just now was definitely a hidden weapon. Could it be made of high-level crystal cores to be able to produce such a powerful force? Their guess was right. The cannonballs were indeed condensed from crystal cores. However, the pure energy of crystal cores could not produce such a strong destructive power. It all came from the field cannon. This kind of magically modified Italian cannon could convert energy to produce even higher damage. Bai Ruihu's expression was abnormally ugly. It turned out that Iron Bone had such a powerful trump card. No wonder they could remain so calm in front of his 300,000 soldiers. What should he do? What should he do? Bai Ruihu was bombarded by the cannon and lost his will to fight. To be precise, he became a coward. In an instant, the 100,000 soldiers were killed and injured. Even a 5-star general like Shui Rengui would be afraid. Of course. Jun Changshao said, just now was just a greeting gift. The real battle has just begun. Swish! He jumped to the roof of the city tower and opened his hands. Buzz! Buzz! On the left and right outside Qingyang City, a stream of light suddenly appeared. Array! Zhangsun Fanghua and Ling Xingyue looked at each other. Suddenly, they remembered that yesterday, this guy strolled casually outside the city with his hands behind his back and occasionally drew on the ground with a branch. At that time, the two of them thought that this guy was bored out of his mind. Now it seemed that he was not doing boring things, but setting up an array. How is it possible? Zhangsun Fanghua said in disbelief. Array masters were all serious and careful when setting up arrays. That guy could form an array just by drawing randomly. Yes. It was very easy. Because it was the Chiman 32 array. General Bai. Jun Changshao raised his hand and smiled. Today, I will let you see what an elite army is, what a mighty army is. Clap. His palms were tightly clasped together. Swish. Swish. The isolation array on both sides of the city immediately disappeared. What appeared in everyone's vision were soldiers in armor, with mighty auras and cold gazes. There were a total of 100,000 of them. Sect leader Jun was afraid that if he directly scattered beans into soldiers, it would cause a huge shock and bring unnecessary trouble to himself, so he placed the spirit beans in the isolation array in advance. In this way, no one would think that the soldiers were made of beans. They would only think that he had set up an ambush outside the city in advance. Xie Guangquan was dumbfounded, and then his eyes lit up with excitement. It turned out that sect leader Jun had more than one backup plan. Zhangsun Fanghua and Ling Xingyue frowned and thought to themselves, although these soldiers don't have any martial arts aura, their strength must be extraordinary. Why did they think so? Because they could tell from their aura and eyes. Bai Ruihu, who had been through hundreds of battles, naturally realized it. The other party had extremely lethal war weapons and so many elite soldiers. This was very troublesome. Retreat? As soon as this thought arose, Jun Changshao, who was standing on the city tower, controlled the 100,000 spirit bean soldiers and walked over in an orderly manner. There were 50,000 soldiers on each side, and they gradually surrounded by Ruihu's less than 200,000 soldiers. Sect leader Jun is wise and virtuous. He will benefit the common people and unite the world for thousands of years. The spirit bean soldiers shouted in unison. Their voices rippled in the sky for a long time. System, for the soldiers to shout such a slogan, it must have been transmitted by Jun Changxiao's thoughts. Did he want to be more arrogant? What do you know? Jun Changxiao said, this is aura. The system said, this slogan is Dongfang Boobies. Host, cut off the unnecessary things below and you will meet the criteria of unite the world for thousands of years. Chapter 488. There were a total of 100,000 spirit bean soldiers on the left and right, shouting slogans as they strode forward. Their deep voices resounded in the air and were quite imposing. However, unifying the pugilistic world for thousands of years was a little too arrogant. Zhangsun Fanghua and Ling Xingyue rolled their eyes. A sect master of a sixth-rate sect wanted to unify the pugilistic world. His brain must have been kicked by a donkey. Shi Jingxian, who had been silent all this while, smiled and said, Sect Master Jun wants to unify the pugilistic world. What a big goal. Due to her eye disease, her presence was not very strong. However, Shi Jingxian could tell from the voice that the Zhenyang County Army must have suffered a setback. Humans. Jun Changshao, who was standing on the city gate tower, raised his head 45 degrees and said proudly, we have to set a big goal. Only then will we have more motivation to work hard. Therefore, this guy spent all his skill points on acting cool. If he could use them to persuade people, how could he still be single? Tisk, Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were disdainful. Humans had to have goals, but they should also recognize themselves and not daydream all day long. On the battlefield, 100,000 spirit beam soldiers had already approached. Their aura was like a rainbow and they shouted slogans that shook heaven and earth. Instantly, the soldiers of the White Tiger Legion were so shocked that their hearts trembled. To be honest, the cannon blast just now had left them with a psychological shadow. Bai Ruihu also knew that their morale was low. If they fought hard, they would definitely suffer heavy losses. Shush! He rode his horse with difficulty and shouted, "Retreat!" They were really terrified. Stomp! 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 The soldiers of the White Tiger Legion were not in the mood to fight. After hearing the order, they hurriedly turned around and retreated. They're retreating! They're retreating! Xie Guangquan shouted excitedly. The attack of 300,000 soldiers made him prepared to die if the city was still there. Now that the other party had retreated, it was definitely the most satisfactory result. You come and go as you wish. Do you think my Qingyang city is a market? Jun Changshao sneered and immediately controlled the spirit beam soldiers to use the cloud-treading steps, blocking the retreat at full speed. Looking down from the sky, one could see that the 100,000 soldiers were like a huge net, surrounding the White Tiger Legion. If they wanted to retreat, they could only kill their way out. Hall Master Shui. Jun Changshao said, have the Wolf Rider Hall assist in the defense. Yes. Shua. Shui Rengui waved his battle flag, and Zhongyi once again led 1,000 wolf riders and rushed out at top speed. Jun Changshao said, don't just stand there. Yes. Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the other disciples flew down from the city wall. In an instant, 100,000 spirit beam soldiers surrounded the White Tiger Legion on the battlefield outside the city. 1,000 wolf riders and iron bone disciples stood in the outer circle. Jun Changshao's meaning was simple. Since they were guests, and they had traveled thousands of miles to Qingyang City, as the host, he had to treat them well and make them feel comfortable. Commander, we've been surrounded. A general in the enemy army said with an unsightly expression. Bai Ruihu said in a deep voice, break out. Yes. The generals immediately mobilized their forces, locked onto a position where they could retreat, and launched an attack. Once the soldiers were scattered, their strength would definitely be limited. However, what made the White Tiger Legion despair was that the 10,000 soldiers in charge of breaking out of the encirclement and the 1,000 spirit beam soldiers at the breakout point were instantly killed. Boom! Boom! The energy of Wachop erupted crazily, and broken limbs flew all over the sky. In just one round, the 10,000 soldiers who broke out of the encirclement were instantly killed. At the same time, the surrounding spirit beam soldiers also began to use Wachop on a large scale. With so many people condensing so many crescent-shaped streams of light, the scene was truly shocking. Fuck! Su Xiaoma, who was standing outside, opened his mouth in shock. It turns out that so many people using Wachop will form such a magnificent scene. Li Fei exclaimed. Shua! Shua! Boom! 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 Jun Changshao controlled the spirit beam soldiers and continuously used Wachop. This was absolutely shameless. So what if it was shameless? As long as they could win on the battlefield, no one would fight openly. Plop! Plop! The soldiers of the White Tiger Corps who were trapped were pitiful targets that could only passively be beaten. Bai Ruihu, who was protected by a few generals, watched his own people fall one by one. His eyes were filled with anger, but there was nothing he could do. At this moment, he only wanted to leave as soon as possible and return to Xinjiang County. Whoosh! The streams of light flew over and directly pierced through the generals in front of him. Blood splattered on Bai Ruihu's helmet. Whoosh! 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 Several streams of light flew over one after another. The generals in front of him were all shot and killed. Ah ah! Bai Ruihu was furious. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure rushed over from the layers of soldiers and then stopped in front of him. He grinned and said, "To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader." Fu Su Xiaoma moved his body, went to the back, and raised his leg to kick Bai Ruihu's butt. Bai Ruihu's strength was not bad. He had reached the level of 6th grade Wuzong, but he still could not withstand the force of this kick and was directly kicked into the sky. "Marshal!" All the soldiers exclaimed in unison. "Watch me!" Li Fei tiptoed and used the cloud-treading steps. He leaped more than 20 feet and then landed on the same level as Bai Ruihu. With a golden hook, he kicked Bai Ruihu out like a ball. "Junior brother Yang, catch him." "Okay." Ta ta ta. Yang Yuhua, who was standing on the periphery, kept her iron shield and ran toward Bai Ruihu. Finally, when he was about to hit the ground, she caught him with great precision. "Our general has been captured." Xie Guanquan was so excited that he almost jumped up. The soldiers of the White Tiger Corps, who had already lost their will to fight, became even more chaotic when they saw their marshal being captured by the Iron Bone disciples. They were definitely going to be utterly defeated. It would be a piece of cake for Jun Changshao to wipe them all out. However, he passed an order to the Spirit Bean soldiers. They shouted loudly, "Lay down your weapons and we will spare your lives. Lay down your weapons and we will spare your lives." The voice was like a bell, shocking everyone's mind. The spirit of the White Tiger Corps soldiers immediately collapsed. They threw the weapons in their hands to the ground and raised their hands high. The Spirit Bean soldiers also stopped their attacks. Of the 200,000 soldiers that were surrounded, 60,000 to 70,000 died in a short time. This killing speed was too fast. No wonder the well-trained and battle-hardened White Tiger Corps soldiers chose to surrender. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission, Complete Victory. You have received 2,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 35445,000. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission and triggering the hidden rewards. You have received Saint Grade Aptitude Modifying Liquid X1 and Medial Grade Sect Leader Sphere X1. They have been transferred to the Interspatial Ring. Defeating 300,000 soldiers and completing the hidden mission. How wonderful! The Saint Grade Aptitude Modifying Liquid and Medial Grade Sect Leader Sphere were also very satisfying. Plop! In the Qingyang City drill ground, Yang Yuhua threw the tied-up Bai Ruihu on the stone platform. This was one of the top 10 generals of southwest Yangzhou. He led an army of 300,000 to attack, but in the end, not only was he defeated, but he was also captured. He was even more miserable than Tao Yuan. General Bai. Jun Changshao walked over and said proudly, "You lost." Bai Ruihu, who was kneeling on the ground, had his head lowered. His eyes were filled with anger and pain. He had led an army for 50 years. Although he had lost many battles, this was the most tragic one. Even if he was ransomed, his career was completely over. Sect Master Jun Xie Guanquan said, "How should we deal with this person?" Puchi Jun Changshao took out the cold light sword and directly cut off Bai Ruihu's head. He said indifferently, "Send him to Xinyang County. Let that ambitious county governor understand the consequences of offending Qingyang County." Xie Guanquan was stunned. Even in his wildest dreams, he had never imagined that Sect Master Jun would so decisively behead a famous general of southwest Yangzhou. Chapter 489. Jun Changshao could have subdued Bai Ruihu, but he still chose to kill him. The reason for doing so was to let the true Yang County governor understand that Azure Sun County was not something that could be easily annexed. Not convinced? Continue to send troops. My Iron Bones sect will accompany you to the end. Sect Master Jun, who had the field cannons and the Qianquan bag, was now full of confidence. He was not afraid of worldly wars at all. If it wasn't for the sect's development, he might have led the army to attack Truyang County. This guy is really ruthless, Zhangsun Fanghua said. Lin Xingyue said indifferently, killing the White Tiger Legion's commander is equivalent to completely becoming enemies with Truyang County. Zhangsun Fanghua said, Truyang County still has 3 legions. If they really want to be ruthless, they can kill all of them. Let's see how he can defend Azure Sun City. Shi Jingxian shook her head and said, County Governor Zhua is an ambitious person. He's not a boorish man. The White Tiger Legion's defeat in Azure Sun City must have sounded the alarm for him. Without careful consideration, he won't easily send more troops. This woman saw through things very clearly. She also supported Jun Changshao killing the enemy's commander because it would be a deterrent and let Truyang County know that although Azure Sun County was small, it was not a pushover. The more Shi Jingxian saw with her mind, the more she had a good impression of Jun Changshao. From the looks of it, she thought to herself, helping him is the right bet. Zhangsun Fanghua and Lin Xingyue were not as complicated as Shi Jingxian thought. The two of them agreed that the Iron Bone sect master was too arrogant. He was still a hothead and would fall sooner or later. Yes, yes. They thought that they would fall when the army of 300,000 attacked. In the end, they were still slapped in the face by reality. The 300,000 soldiers of the White Tiger Legion had suffered heavy casualties. The remaining 100,000 soldiers surrendered and were imprisoned by Xie Guangquan. Truyang County's attack ended in complete defeat. It was not hard to imagine that when this news spread out, it would definitely cause a huge commotion in southwest Yangzhou. Sect Master Jun, Shi Jingxian smiled and said, Green Sun City's crisis has been temporarily resolved. Since the sect is busy, this queen will bring the disciples back first. Many thanks for Palace Master Shi's help. Jun will remember this kindness in his heart. Jun Changshao cupped his hands. He still had to deal with the aftermath, so he only sent Shi Jingxian out of the city. Lin Xingyu, who was following them, stopped. She turned around and looked at the city gate tower. She met Elder Wei's gaze, and there was still a faint hatred in her eyes. AI. Elder Wei sighed. Elder Wei. Jun Changshao said, Elder Leng is still charming. She must have been a great beauty when she was young. Why didn't the two of you reconcile? It would definitely be a good thing if their hall master could develop a better relationship with an elder of Miaohua Palace. Elder Wei shook his head and said, I'm just an old man with one foot in the grave. How could I possibly burden her? You're still so pessimistic. Jun Changshao was speechless. Elder Wei changed the topic and said with a smile, the palace master of Miaohua Palace seems to have a good impression of the sect master. If she takes the initiative, there will definitely be something between the two of you. Jun Changshao said, didn't you say that I can't be infatuated with romantic relationships if I want to develop the sect? Elder Wei said, if it were any other girl, of course you can't be infatuated with her. However, that girl is the sect master of a fourth-rate sect. If you marry her, she will definitely be a good wife for you. That makes sense. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, although this woman is blind, she must have extraordinary means to be able to sit in such a high position. If I marry her and let her manage the sect, won't I be able to roam the world with my sword? The system was speechless. Marrying a beautiful girl, yet he wants to be a hands-off shopkeeper. If this guy can find a girlfriend, the heavens must be blind. Elder Wei said, I'm just saying. If the sect master wants to marry the sect master of a fourth-rate sect, it will probably be more difficult than breaking through to Martial Emperor. Jun Changshao agreed. I'm very handsome and charismatic. However, why would she abandon such a huge sect and marry into Iron Bone? The system couldn't take it anymore. Forcing an explanation and praising myself, this guy's skin is probably thicker than the walls of Qingyang City. On the battlefield outside the city, the corpses had been cleaned up. Although faint traces of blood could still be seen, at least it wasn't as scary as before. Thank you, City Lord. Jun Changshao said, I'll pick a batch of the captured soldiers to bring back to Iron Bone. I'll leave the rest to you. Ah! Xie Guangquan was dumbfounded. How am I supposed to deal with so many captives? How to deal with them was his problem. After checking the captives, Sect Master Jun brought the disciples of Iron Bone back to the sect. The captives he brought back were all soldiers of the Tiger Army. Iron Bone was still short of more than 2,000 disciples. Since they couldn't recruit any outstanding youths and couldn't poach from other counties, they could only start with these soldiers. They chose the soldiers of the Tiger Army because they were personally trained by Tao Yuan. As long as that guy acknowledged the sect, they would naturally acknowledge him as well. Sect Master Jun's little abacus was very good. However, after returning to the sect, Tao Yuan still locked himself in his room. It could be seen that after being captured, losing his memory and joining Iron Bone was a knot in his heart that couldn't be untied. Creak. The door opened. Jun Changshao walked in and sat on a chair. He crossed his legs and said, Xinjiang County sent 300,000 soldiers to attack Qingyang City. Tao Yuan, who was facing the wall, was expressionless. The result. Jun Changshao said, the commander of the army, Bai Ruihu, was killed by me. His head has been sent to Xinjiang County. The White Tiger Army no longer exists. Tao Yuan, whose back was facing him, trembled slightly. After a while, he sighed deeply. However, there wasn't much shock in his eyes. For the past 3 months, he had been living in Iron Bone. Not only did he know that the wolf cavalry was brave and skilled in battle, he also witnessed the sect master's use of beans to create soldiers. If such a powerful force was used on the battlefield, it would definitely be successful. Not to mention, Hall Master Shui was extremely proficient in the art of war. Although Bai Ruihu's White Tiger Army had 300,000 soldiers, it wouldn't be easy for them to attack the city. Jun Changshao said, I'm not showing off to you. I just want to tell you that if my Iron Bone can defeat an army like Xinjiang County, what kind of opponent can't we defeat? Tao Yuan was silent. Jun Changshao said again, the door has always been open. You can leave now. I won't force you. Tao Yuan's gaze became complicated. Yes. Iron Bone's door had always been open. He could leave without hesitation. However, he chose to lock himself in his room. This meant that he was struggling in his heart. These days, Tao Yuan admired Shui Rengui and wanted to lead the wolf cavalry. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay. However, his dignity as a soldier restricted him. He couldn't make a decision. Jun Changshao stood up and looked out of the window. He said heroically, stay and follow me to conquer the world. We'll sweep through the world and achieve great feats. Tao Yuan was startled. His gaze gradually became filled with battle intent. I've brought the soldiers you've trained. Jun Changshao said, they can continue to fight with you. In the future, there will definitely be a place for you in the Falling Star continent. No. He said resolutely, it should be the god of war whose name resounds through the heavens. Sect Master Jun's ability to fool people wasn't just for show. Even Shui Rengui, who was standing outside, was completely ignited when he heard the words god of war. He was already past the age where his blood was boiling. People didn't have dreams. What was the difference between him and a salted fish author who didn't update? Therefore, Tao Yuan, who was already in a dilemma, suddenly stood up. He then turned around and saluted Jun Changshao. His voice was as loud as a bell as he said, Disciple Tao Yuan is willing to follow Sect Master to conquer the world and achieve great merits. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission, bewitching people's heart. You have received 1,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 45445,000. Chapter 490. The main city of Xinjiang County, Xinjiang City, had an extremely majestic palace-like building complex. This was where the county chief lived and was privately called the palace by the people. Just from the architecture alone, it was clear that the county chief of Xinjiang County was a very ambitious person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have built a palace like the one the emperor lived in. Then, what did this county chief look like? Following the camera into the grand hall, they saw a middle-aged man in his 30s or 40s sitting at the head of the table. Zhuo Chaochuan, the county chief of Xinjiang County. His face was full of whiskers and gave off a very wild feeling. His tiger-like eyes shone brightly and he gave off the aura of someone who had been in power for a long time. His image was very fitting. He was an ambitious and ruthless person. However, below him, the generals and strategists all had their heads lowered and their hearts were all trembling. The atmosphere in the hall was very solemn. Just now, Bai Ruihu's head was placed in a brocade box and sent over. "Paw!" Zhuo Chaochuan slammed his palm on the table and shouted angrily, 300,000 soldiers not only failed to take down Xinjiang City, they were also completely wiped out. Bai Ruihu can't absolve himself from the blame even if he dies 10,000 times. This county chief was really angry. After all, the White Tiger Legion was one of the 4 legions that he had painstakingly built. Now that it was gone just like that, his heart would definitely ache. "County chief." A burly general cupped his hands and said, "This general is willing to lead the Xuanwu Legion to attack Xinjiang County and bring back the head of the Iron Bone Sect Master. My Azure Dragon Legion requests for battle. My Vermilion Bird Legion requests for battle." Not only was the county chief angry that the White Tiger Legion had been wiped out, but the commanders of the 3 legions were also very angry. The 3 legions added together had at least 1 million soldiers. If they really attacked Xinjiang City, Sect Master Jun would definitely be under a lot of pressure. Although Zhuo Chaochuan was so angry that his beard was trembling, he calmed down and said, "Recently, our Xinjiang County has been going to war frequently and has made the other big counties very unhappy. We can't waste our forces for a small county." Iron Bone had been stationed in Xinjiang City, wiped out the White Tiger Legion, and even sent Bai Ruihu's head over. This was obviously a warning. If it was just Iron Bone, Zhuo Chaochuan would definitely take it. However, there was more than one enemy at the moment. Many large counties were eyeing Xinjiang County covetously, so he had no choice but to consider carefully. Furthermore, the White Tiger Corps had been completely wiped out, so Iron Bone definitely had some strength. If they sent troops over, there would definitely be casualties. It was not a wise move to take over a 9th-grade county that was only meant to expand their territory and had no value in resources. Zhuo Chaochuan wasn't a brainless villain who sent trash to give experience to the main character. After suffering a loss, he would definitely be well-behaved for a period of time. At the very least, they had to deal with the large counties that were eyeing them covetously before thinking about attacking Azure Sun County. This was also what sect leader Jun wanted. Because what he lacked now was time. Even if he was given a bit of time to breathe and let the sect develop, he would have the confidence to confront the entire world. Did you guys hear? The True Sun County sent a total of 300,000 soldiers to attack Azure Sun County. However, they were all defeated outside Azure Sun City. I've long heard of such a huge matter. Moreover, from what I know, the commander of the army, Bai Ruihu, was beheaded and his head was sent to Xinjiang County. My God, the White Tiger Corps is one of the best elite corps in southwest Yangzhou. General Bai is also one of the top 10 generals, but he actually died outside Azure Sun City. As expected, the martial cultivators in southwest Yangzhou received the latest news and discussed in shock. Especially when they found out that the person in charge of defending Azure Sun City was Iron Bone, their eyes were filled with disbelief. A period of time had passed since the life and death arena was set up at the foot of the mountain, and its popularity had gradually decreased. Because Iron Bone participated in the secular war and wiped out the White Tiger Corps, he once again became the #1 trending topic. What family war? What who fought with who for 3 days and 3 nights? Even recently, the hot topic of a family head's concubine having an affair with his housekeeper was covered up by Iron Bone. The happiest people were the 7 city lords of Azure Sun County. When they received the news, they almost couldn't help but jump in excitement. Azure Sun City was the main city of the county, and Iron Bone's defense had undoubtedly brought light to them who were lost in the darkness. 6th grade Jinyang County. It wasn't undefeatable. The news of victory spread throughout Azure Sun County. The people in the cities, towns, and villages all rushed to spread the news and celebrated with gongs and drums. Many people even kowtowed in the direction of Iron Bone Mountain. When Azure Sun County fell, they would become slaves. They were Iron Bone, and it was sect leader June who turned the tide. Naturally, they would be worshipped by the people. If June Changshao turned the sect into a temple and put up incense boxes, it would definitely attract many worshippers. Grand Chi Sect, Main Hall. After Qin Haoran received the news, he held the letter and sat in the main seat, dumbstruck. He couldn't recover for a long time. Iron Bone could resist an army of 300,000. How was this possible? If it wasn't written clearly in black and white, Alliance leader Qin would really think that he was dreaming. He had already received the news that Jinyang County had attacked Heian County and Huayang County. At that time, he had discussed with the Alliance leaders and finally came to the conclusion that Azure Sun County would be targeted. Because of this, Grand Chi Sect and the Alliance sects all closed their doors and didn't care about worldly affairs. When Azure Sun County was in danger, they all chose to stay out of it. This kind of action was really despicable. Therefore, June Changshao led Iron Bone disciples to defend Azure Sun City and defeated Jinyang County's army. This was undoubtedly a slap to their faces. It was loud and clear. This slap also woke up Qin Haoran, who was pretending to be asleep. He finally realized and admitted that Iron Bone was an existence that he and the Alliance couldn't fight against. Challenging Sacred Spring Sect. Fighting Massacre Shrine on the stage. Now, fighting against the elite army of a 6th grade county. What could Qin Haoran, his vast Chi sect, and his 100-sect alliance do? They couldn't do it at all. They didn't even dare to think about it. In the past, Iron Bone was just an ant at the foot of a mountain in the eyes of Qin Haoran and the alliance leaders. Now, it had become a giant that they could only look up at. Looking up was still behind. When Tao Yuan acknowledged June Changshao and Iron Bone, his 2,472 Tiger Army soldiers also joined the sect. When the number reached 5,000, the sect mission was triggered. When the disciples completed the mission and met the requirements, the sect's level would increase and the number of members would also increase. Iron Bone would also be one step closer to becoming a 5th-rate sect. Why? Because to be promoted to a sect, not only did it need 10,000 members, it also needed 1 martial king, 10 wuzong, and 1,000 martial masters. Iron Bone's realm level was completely met, but it lacked disciples. Therefore, increasing the number of members was the key to becoming a sect. Of course, disciples weren't a problem. Because the soldiers trained by Tao Yuan lived in Iron Bone, not all of them joined the sect due to the limit of members. As long as June Changshao didn't care about aptitude and wanted to improve, it would be easy for Iron Bone to be promoted to a sect. Chapter 491. Tao Yuan finally thought it through and truly regarded himself as a member of the Iron Bone sect. This showed that sect leader June's brainwashing ability was still very strong. As for what he said about following him to conquer the world and sweep through the world, he was actually bragging. Fighting a war was impossible. After all, the main task now was to develop the sect. After Tao Yuan agreed, the captured Tiger Might army soldiers naturally joined willingly. The number of disciples in the Iron Bone sect was instantly filled. Sect missions appeared in the mission pavilion, and the disciples began to actively work on them. During this time, June Changshao assigned the new soldiers to the Wolf Rider Hall and appointed Tao Yuan as the deputy hall master to assist Shui Rengui. One was a 5-star general, and the other was a rising star in the military world. What kind of achievements the Wolf Rider Hall would have in the future under the management of these two people? Let's wait and see. Sect leader Shui Rengui said, "We don't have enough mounts." Don't worry. June Changshao said indifferently, when the wolf cubs in the mountains grow up, they will be assigned to the Wolf Rider Hall. Living in a place full of spiritual energy and with the supply of feed pills, the hurricane wolves living in the mountains grew up very quickly. Soon, the new members of the Wolf Rider Hall would all ride one. Although Jun Changshao had no intention of conquering the world, since there were ambitious people in the Falling Star continent, he definitely needed to plan ahead and develop. At least when the war came, he would have the ability to deal with it. Although this Iron Bones sect leader was a little mischievous, he definitely had other merits besides being handsome. The contribution points of the newly recruited over 2,000 disciples were also overflowing. Jun Changshao didn't go to the shop. Instead, he bought a lot of molding rooms and mid-grade aptitude-modifying elixirs for the development of the sect and disciples. Because Jinyang County stopped attacking, Qingyang County was able to calm down as usual. Sect leader Jun also had a rare moment of peace and began to think about who to give the holy grade aptitude-modifying elixir to. Qianqian's aptitude is very strong. It's useless to give it to her. Let's give it to Qingyang first. Everyone could see that Li Qingyang had put in a lot of effort for the sect. Giving the elixir to him was definitely the most suitable. Jun Changshao wasn't biased when it came to the distribution of martial arts resources. He gave them to whoever was most suitable. If there was really no choice, then he could only give them on a first-come, first-served basis. Therefore, in the future, as long as there were people like Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingqian, there would definitely be a lot of them. When he bought the AWM sniper rifle, sect leader Jun had also bought 5 bottles of top-grade aptitude modification elixir. Now that he had 7 bottles, he gave them to Li Yuhua, Ling Yuanxue, Song Xianzhou, and Zhang Wei. Hoo-hoo! Inside the room, Li Qingyang clenched his fists tightly as his eyes glowed with a scorching luster when he took the modification liquid and raised his aptitude from supreme grade to divine grade. The transformation of his aptitude boosted his cultivation, allowing him to smoothly advance from the 7th rank to the 8th rank of Wuzong. At Wuzong's level, the one with the highest cultivation was Yi Xingqian, who had already reached the 9th level of Wuzong. Xiao Ziji, Su Xiaoma and the others were at level 7. Long Xiang and the other disciples who entered the inner gate later were at level 4 or 5 on average. After Yang Yuhua, Ling Yuanxue, and the others took the top-grade aptitude modification elixir, their spiritual roots were raised to supreme grade. Because they had taken it before, although they were very excited, they weren't too surprised. Song Xianzhou, on the other hand, was extremely shocked. Senior brother Li, he said in disbelief, what kind of elixir is this? It can actually raise the level of one's spiritual roots after taking it. Li Qingyang said, don't be surprised, it's very common. Very common. Song Xuanzhou's mouth twitched slightly, then he excitedly went to cultivate. So far, there were 2 divine grade, 14 supreme grade, and 5 superior grade among the Iron Bone inner disciples. Note, the number of Iron Bone inner disciples in the previous paragraph was 22, but the actual number was 21. I calculated wrongly. There were so many disciples with high-level spiritual roots, it was impossible to find them in the second or third-rate sections. As for whether there were any in the first-rate sects, it was hard to say. It was still the same sentence. The Iron Bone had great potential, but it lacked time to grow. After the number of disciples reached the quota, the sect missions were triggered, and the disciples accepted them one after another. The sect's achievement value was capped at 5,000 points. If they completed all the missions, not only would they be overpaid, they would also be rewarded with 5,000 contribution points. Therefore, Jun Changshao could only open up the store again and spend them in advance. He bought Jia Bing's Qiankuan bag, but there wasn't anything good, so he spent 100 contribution points to refresh it. Holy shit! Sect leader Jun glanced at the new products and almost jumped up in excitement when he saw the mid-grade Qi gathering pill formula. Although natural spirit stones could increase one's cultivation quickly, there was a limit to it. The Iron Bone's biggest reliance was still the Qi gathering pill. The low-grade Qi gathering pill was effective in the lower levels, but as one's cultivation level increased, it would obviously lose its effect. Therefore, they needed higher-grade Qi gathering pills. He clicked on the introduction. The mid-grade chi gathering pill could increase the speed of absorbing spiritual energy by 30 times. The low-grade chi gathering pill could increase the speed of absorbing spiritual energy by 10 times, but with higher-grade herbs, it could increase the speed by 15 times or even 20 times. If the mid-grade chi gathering pill was used with higher-grade herbs, it would definitely increase the speed by more than 30 times. Buy! 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 Jun Changshao bought the mid-grade chi gathering pill formula without hesitation. It was automatically matched to the alchemy pavilion. He clicked on the pills and saw that there were many types of herbs needed to refine them, but they weren't too precious. He should be able to buy or grow them. He continued to flip through. Sect leader Jun saw a formula called antidote pill. The introduction said that after taking it, it could neutralize hundreds of poisons. In the future, disciples will have to go out and train in the wild. It's not bad to have an antidote pill. He spent another 1,000 contribution points to buy the formula. During this time, Sect leader Jun had collected a lot of herbs. He opened the alchemy pavilion and could refine a few hundred pills. Therefore, he decisively refined the antidote pill. He continued to browse the store and found 2 more martial techniques. Although they were only high-grade, they were still stronger than the exploding fist technique. Sect leader Jun decisively bought them. As long as the martial techniques were refreshed, he would buy them regardless of their grade to enrich the sect's martial techniques library. After copying 5,000 of each martial technique, Sect leader Jun still had 796 contribution points left of the 4,996. He didn't panic at all because the disciples would slowly fill up their contribution points after completing the sect's missions. As expected. In the next 5 to 6 days, the disciples who accepted the missions completed them one after another. The contribution points and achievement points on the system interface kept rising. Sect leader Jun thought of ways to spend all 796 contribution points in order to make it a round number. On the 10th day, all the missions were completed. Contribution points, 50005000. Achievement points, 72005000. I can level up now. Jun Changshao rubbed his hands and clicked on the sect construction. Ding! Sect construction has increased to level 6. Ding! Sect members, contribution points, and achievement points have increased. Ding! Sect spiritual aura pavilion opened. After the notification sounded, the system interface changed. Sect name, Iron Bone Jing Sect leader, Jun Changxia Sect level, 6th rate sect construction, level 6 sect functions, medicine refining pavilion, smithing pavilion, talisman pavilion, spirit beast pavilion, spiritual aura pavilion. Sect cultivation technique, Jin Jing, low grade divine grade, cloud steps, low grade high grade, sound transmission technique, mid grade high grade, sect members, 500,010,000. Sect contribution points, 500,010,000. Sect achievement points, 220,010,000. Sect main mission, within 100 years, I finally broke through 10,000. At the start, the system interface's value limit was 100. Now that it had reached 10,000, Jun Changshao almost couldn't hold back his tears. For the sect, for the sake of becoming stronger. Even with a fever of 60 degrees, I still insisted on developing the sect. Do you know how hard I worked? The system poured cold water on him. There are still 90,000 disciples short of the 100,000 required for the main mission. Host must work harder and have a fever. Chapter 492. After the upgrade of the sect leader Jun was most interested in the new function of the spirit room. From the word spirit, he speculated that it might be related to spiritual energy. From the word room, he guessed that it might have a nurturing function. Could it be that it can help me nurture spiritual energy? Jun Changxiao's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly tapped on the spirit room. A small panel popped up. As usual, there was a space similar to a 3D projection. There was something that looked like an alchemy furnace, and the words "Spirit Room" were engraved on it. There were many items under the panel, all of which were already there. For example, the elementary-grade cold-edge sword, iron shield, overlord spear, soft silk armor, and the intermediate-grade cold-edge sword. What was going on? Sect leader June tapped on the elementary-grade cold-edge sword with doubts. Item, elementary-grade cold-edge sword. Spirit Room, 0 to 1. Please select metal spirit, wood spirit, water spirit, fire spirit, earth spirit. Note, as the level of the sect's construction increases, more Spirit Room will be unlocked. Jun Changxiao was dumbfounded. What does this mean? The system explained. The host guessed half of it right. The Spirit Room does have a nurturing function, but it doesn't nurture spiritual energy. It nurtures weapon spirits. Nurturing weapon spirits? Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. The so-called weapon spirits were life forms formed in the weapons. Many people thought that the special effect of the Green Dragon Crescent Blade had a weapon spirit. In the end, it was targeted by the Demon Fiend Sect. The function of the Spirit Room was to nurture the weapons and treasures of the system at a deeper level, thus condensing weapon spirits of different attributes. For example, the elementary-grade cold-edge sword. If it was chosen to nurture a fire spirit, it would become a weapon with a fire spirit. After hearing the system explain the function of the Spirit Room, Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. This function of nurturing weapon spirits was equivalent to embedding various attributes on the equipment. Let's give it a try. Jun Changxiao tapped on the Fire Spirit button, and a window popped up. Available quantity, 1, do you want to continue? Fuck. It can be nurtured in batches. If he took back all of his cold-edge swords and refined them with a single button, he would definitely be able to create a weapon with a weapon spirit. Continue. Jun Changxiao tapped on the button. The spirit accumulating furnace was suddenly filled with a rich fire attribute spiritual energy. It seemed that the spirit accumulating furnace had begun. According to sect leader Jun's experience, the more advanced the system was, the more time it would take to activate the functions. Thus, he retracted the system interface and began to consider another problem. Should he continue to recruit soldiers from the Tiger Might Army or recruit talented martial cultivators? As long as Jun Changxiao was willing, the number of members in the sect could easily exceed 10,000. After that, they would be able to directly certify the sect. However, although these soldiers' cultivation levels were not bad, their spirit roots were too weak, and their room for growth was limited. If he could take all of them in, he could even take in 100,000, let alone 10,000, because there were still many white captives in Qingyang City. However, once the number of people reached the requirement, it would be very difficult for the sect to become stronger in the future. In the past, Iron Bone only had a few hundred disciples, so Jun Changxiao felt relaxed. Now that the number of disciples had exceeded 2,000, the consumption of resources was simply too great. 100,000 mediocre disciples would definitely require more resources to nurture. This would also increase the burden and slow down the overall development of the sect. If I can't recruit soldiers, I still have to set my sights on martial cultivators with good aptitudes. At least I can save a lot of resources and speed up the growth of the sect. Jun Changxiao made a decision in his heart. The 100-year time limit made him have to treat it seriously and not just find a group of ordinary soldiers to rush in. How should he recruit them? He had to place them in the outer counties. Naturally, sect leader Jun would not openly poach them. Instead, he planned to not recruit them and let them take the initiative to come. Now, he had to think carefully about what method to use. The next day, the elementary-grade cold-edge sword was successfully nurtured. Jun Changxiao hurriedly took it out. From the outside, the nurtured cold-edge sword did not change, but the cold aura was replaced by heat. Tisk, tisk. Jun Changxiao said in amazement, a weapon refined from cold iron actually has a fire attribute after being nurtured. This is truly inconceivable. He released his spiritual senses and merged them with the sword. A small space opened up inside, and a little guy floated like a ghost. This was the newly nurtured fire spirit. Although its body was small, it was filled with the power of fire. The system said, the weapon spirit is in an ownerless state. The host must sign a contract with it to truly control it. Jun Changshao communicated with it with his spiritual sense and found that the little guy was a little resistant. However, after a little scare, it obediently submitted. Signing a contract with a newly formed weapon spirit was much easier than signing a contract with a ferocious beast. It only took an hour. After successfully obtaining the fire element weapon spirit of the cold-edged sword, Jun Changshao felt that he was more compatible with the weapon. With the weapon spirit in control of the weapon, he and the weapon spirit were indistinguishable. They could use the weapon better. Huff, huff. Jun Changshao held the sword hilt and communicated with the weapon spirit. The entire sword was instantly enveloped in scorching flames. It could be said that he was too handsome. Awesome! Sect leader Jun's eyes were filled with excitement. He then went to the inner yard's martial arts field and began to slash to his heart's content. Shwa! 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 Streams of flaming sword energy filled the air and interweaved into a dazzling net of flames. Damn! Su Xiaoma walked out from the side room. Looking at the crisscrossing flaming sword energy in the martial arts field, his eyes suddenly widened. Li Fei, Tian Qi, and the others were also alarmed. They all looked at the sect leader practicing his sword with admiration. After playing for a while, Jun Changshao kept his sword and the flames gradually dissipated. He said, "Isn't it handsome?" Handsome! Everyone said in unison. Su Xiaoma said with a face of admiration, "If I can be a fire element martial cultivator like the sect leader, that would be great." He believed that Jun Changshao's flaming sword energy was related to him being a fire element martial cultivator. Isn't that simple? Jun Changshao said confidently, "Give me your cold-edged sword. This seat will let you become a fire element martial cultivator." Give me the sword and become a fire element martial cultivator? Su Xiaoma's eyes were filled with confusion, but he still handed the cold-edged sword over. Are you sure you want the fire element? Jun Changshao asked. Yes. As a man, he naturally liked the fire element that represented explosion and wildness. Jun Changshao then looked at Li Fei, Tian Qi, and the others, and said, "Give me your swords as well. This seat will let all of you become fire element martial cultivators." Ha! All the disciples were dumbfounded. However, out of absolute trust in the sect leader, they all handed over their weapons. Sect leader. Yang Yuhua scratched his head and said, "I prefer the earth element." Jun Changshao said, "As long as it is within the 5 elements, you can choose as you wish." Song Xianzhou anxiously said, "Sect leader, I like the metal element." Long Xiang handed over the conqueror's spear and said, "Sect leader, I also like the metal element." Sect leader, I like the wood element. Sect leader, I like the water element. Although the disciples didn't know what was going on, as long as they handed over their weapons to the sect leader, they would tell him which element they liked. Stars. Jun Changshao said, "What about you?" Yi Xingqian muttered in his heart, "This emperor prefers to use his fists." However, since the sect leader took the initiative to ask, he said, "Up to you." After memorizing them one by one, Jun Changshao opened the spiritual aura chamber and began to refine them in batches according to the different elements. Although the spiritual aura chamber's refine function was slow, it took the same amount of time to refine one weapon and a pile of weapons. Therefore, early the next morning, the cold-edged sword that contained different weapon spirits was refined. There is a weapon spirit inside the sword. You can use the element you want after signing a contract with it. After assigning the weapons, Jun Changshao didn't forget to remind them. Weapon spirit? All the disciples' eyes widened. Knight Emperor, who preferred to use his fists, also had a look of surprise in his eyes. When he took the cold-edged sword and felt that there was indeed a weapon spirit inside, he opened his mouth in shock. This was really a weapon with a weapon spirit. Wait! Yi Xingqian broke down, "Sect leader. Why is it a water element weapon spirit?" Didn't you say anything was up to you? Jun Changshao said. At that moment, our Knight Emperor almost vomited blood. It would have been fine to give a fire or metal element weapon spirit, but to give a water element weapon spirit, did he think of himself as a woman? Chapter 493. Iron Bone disciples quickly signed a contract with the weapon spirit after obtaining the weapon. The advantage of this was that it would become an exclusive weapon. Even if others obtained it, they would not be able to use it as they did not have the support of the weapon spirit. Cold Edge Sword and Overlord Spear, as system weapons, were already very powerful. Now that they had weapon spirits, they would only be more powerful. To be exact, weapons with weapon spirits could be classified as treasures. Jun Changshao had helped many disciples form weapon spirits, which was equivalent to giving each of them a treasure. This was very powerful. It also shocked Yi Xingchen. He had seen weapons with weapon spirits in his previous life, but they were extremely rare. The sect leader actually gave them to his disciples. The upper realm. They must have come from the upper realm. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. On the large training field in the outer courtyard, Su Xiaoma and the others communicated with the weapon spirits. In an instant, fire element red, water element blue, wood element light green, earth element light brown, and metal element bright yellow. The brilliant 5 elements spread out, interweaving into a spectacular scene. From another perspective, it looked like they were all equipment embedded with various attribute stones. They were definitely RMB players in the game. He Wudi, who had just finished cultivating in the forging room, saw Su Xiaoma and the others holding all kinds of beautiful weapons. He immediately widened his eyes and said, These weapons all have weapon spirits? He was indeed an expert. He could tell at a glance. In his world, weapon spirits were standard. Without them, one would not be considered an expert. He would be embarrassed to greet them when he went out. However, in the mortal realm, martial masters had weapon spirits, and there were so many of them. This was shocking. They must have been left behind by the 7 profound sage in the mortal realm. Yi Xingchen thought that these weapons came from the upper realm. As a real person from the upper realm, he would have thought that they were left behind by a powerful person. This misunderstanding was really wonderful. Whoosh! Whoosh! On the training field, the 5 elements were released frequently. It was gorgeous. Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the others were fire element weapon spirits. The flames that spread out revealed an explosive power. Long Xiang and Song Xianzhou were both metal-type weapon spirits. The spearhead and the sword body exuded an indestructible sharpness. Yang Yuhua's spirit wasn't a weapon, but an iron shield. Because it had an earth attribute artifact spirit, after it was activated, it immediately formed a thick and heavy aura, and its defensive strength also increased. As for the wood and water elements, they were more of a support type, so they were more suitable for girls. No wonder. Yi Xingchen, who had obtained a water-type equipment spirit weapon, had the urge to vomit blood. Sect leader Jun stood in front of the main hall with a smile on his face as he watched his disciples test their weapons. The spirit concealment pavilion, which had been opened to the 6th level, was indeed very powerful. If the disciples were equipped with this kind of weapon, their combat strength would definitely increase by a lot. Furthermore, as long as he had a system weapon, he could use spirit accumulation at any time. He didn't need any random materials. It's a pity that elementary weapons like the Cold Edge Sword and the Overlord Spear can only be used once. This was what sect leader Jun was dissatisfied with. He opened the Spirit Concealment Pavilion and tapped on the Cold Edge Sword. The data that appeared was similar to the Cold Edge Sword, but the number of spirit accumulations was 2, which meant that 2 types of artifact spirits could be produced. I am a fire attribute martial cultivator and the king of the sword Dao. Choosing a fire spirit and a metal spirit is more suitable. Jun Changshao muttered. At this moment, Lu Qianqian walked in from the inner courtyard. He said, Qianqian, bring your cold edge sword over. I will help you modify it. It was a pity that there was no ice attribute artifact spirit, otherwise, it would definitely be his first choice. Lu Qianqian walked over, but did not take out the cold-edged sword. Instead, she said, "Sect leader, disciple wants to go out and gain experience." She had mentioned this matter before, but because of the invasion of Xinjiang County, it was temporarily put on hold. Now that the matter had been temporarily resolved, it was time for her to go to the Northeast Lu Prefecture to cultivate. "All right." Jun Changshao said, "I allow you to go out and gain experience." He would not stop his disciples from going out. However, Jun Changshao added, "Bring me the cold-edged sword first." Going out to gain experience was not a problem, but she must first condense a weapon spirit. At least it could increase her combat power, and it would be safer outside. Lu Qianqian handed over the cold-edged sword. Jun Changshao did not ask her what weapon spirit she needed. Instead, he chose a fire spirit and a water spirit. Because there was no ice spirit, the second best choice was the water spirit. As for the fire spirit, he hoped that it could melt her cold heart. The next day, Jun Changshao handed the weapon that had been condensed with a spirit to Lu Qianqian and said, "When do we leave?" "Today." Lu Qianqian said. "So soon?" Jun Changshao thought for a moment and said, "Approved." Iron Bone Sect, outside the mountain gate. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other disciples personally sent their eldest senior sister off. Although Lu Qianqian's personality was cold and taciturn, she was still the eldest disciple of the Iron Bone Sect. Naturally, she was deeply respected by her fellow disciples. "Eldest senior sister." Lu Wancher cried, "Take care." She used to be very afraid of Lu Qianqian. After all, when she first came, she had a sword on her neck. However, after she became a disciple of the Iron Bone Sect, if there was anything she did not understand in martial arts, her senior sister would guide her. Although she was cold and taciturn, she could often point out the flaws in one sentence, which benefited her a lot. With the gradual contact, Lu Wancher became more aware that her eldest senior sister was just cold, but she was actually a very good person. Ling Yuan Shui and the other Iron Bone Sect disciples watched their eldest senior sister leave the mountain. They were also sad. "Second senior brother." Su Xiaoma said, "Where's the sect leader?" Li Qingyang shook his head and said, "I don't know either." Jun Changshao did not come to send his eldest disciple off. He sat alone on the roof of the main hall. The past rose up in his sea of consciousness. "I want to join the Iron Bone Sect." This was the first sentence Lu Qianqian said when she first appeared. At that time, sect leader Jun had just crossed over. He even had to rely on Aunt Wang to eat. It could be said that he was poor and destitute. "You're the sect leader." "I left the sect." In the face of Lu Qianqian's doubts, sect leader Jun used all his means to make her stay. Later, he went to Qingyang City to participate in the recruitment of hundreds of sections. This sect's only disciple had a poisonous tongue, which also gave many readers the opportunity to use this topic to criticize. Damn it! Jun Changshao shook his head and threw away all the memories. He said, "It's not like you won't come back. Why be so sad?" He stood up and looked at the graceful figure that had disappeared on the stairs. He transmitted his voice, "Lu Qianqian, remember my words. You will always be the eldest disciple of the Iron Bone Sect." Lu Qianqian, who went down the mountain, heard it but did not respond. "If you encounter trouble outside, don't be rash. You must find a way to ask for help from the sect. I and your junior brothers and sisters will be your strong backing." Jun Changshao transmitted his voice again. Lu Qianqian stopped at the foot of the mountain and looked back at the gate. A group of junior brothers were still waving their hands and smiling as they sent her off. When she was expelled from the sect, no one comforted her or cared about her. Now, she was just going out to experience the world. It did not mean that she would not return. Her junior brothers and sisters stood in front of the gate to send her off and did not leave for a long time. At that moment, Lu Qianqian's heart was in turmoil. Is it so difficult to have a heart like still water? Her eyes were filled with bitterness and she left without looking back. On this day, the eldest disciple of the Iron-Bound sect went down the mountain and began her experience. As for when she would return, it was unknown. Chapter 494. After Lu Qianqian left, the cold aura that permeated the Iron-Bound sect completely disappeared. However, the disciples felt that something was missing. They felt that something was wrong when they did their morning exercises. Sect leader Jun wasn't used to it either. After the morning exercises, he sat in the main hall and would occasionally look outside the door. Over there, she would often appear out of nowhere, and then she would lean against the door and say some cold words. Everyone had feelings. Even if these feelings had nothing to do with love. He had interacted with Lu Qianqian for a long time. Although she didn't have much of a presence, now that she was gone, he would definitely feel that something was missing. Sigh. Jun Changshao let out a long sigh. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have allowed her to go out for training. She just left. Li Luoqiu walked in from outside and smiled. Sect leader, do you miss her? There was a hidden meaning in her words, but sect leader Jun, who was a loner, didn't understand. He said rather sadly, she's the eldest disciple after all. How can I not miss her? Li Luoqiu said, don't think about it. I'll tell you a piece of good news. What good news? Jun Changshao asked. Li Luoqiu smiled. Xinjiang County and Scarlet Sun County have started a war. Both sides have sent 500,000 troops. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. It is indeed good news. Xinjiang County and a 6th grade county were fighting, so they definitely wouldn't have the time to target Xinjiang County. He could develop his sect in peace. Senior martial brother. On the martial arts field, Su Xiaoma said in a low voice, eldest senior martial sister isn't here. Everyone seems to be listless. We need time to get used to it, Li Qingyang said. Swoosh. He stood up and clapped his hands. Don't just stand there. Go do your missions and cultivate. Eldest senior martial sister wasn't here. As the second disciple, he had to shoulder the responsibility. Yes. The disciples adjusted their moods and began to focus on cultivation. Sect leader Jun gradually walked out of the negative emotions brought about by the departure of his eldest disciple and began to plan for the sect's development. First, he had to expand the sect. After accommodating 5,000 disciples, the inner and outer courtyards became more crowded. Expansion was necessary. Upon receiving the order, Li Qingyang took out many architectural sketches and even many small models. Looking at the exquisite architectural model, sect leader Jun asked in surprise, "You made it?" "Okay," Li Qingyang said. "Tsk tisk." Jun Changshao praised, "These building models you created are completely comparable to Stylus Lei." Stylized thunder? Li Qingyang was at a loss. Jun Changshao did not explain too much. He handed over the spatial ring and said, "There are 10 million taels here. Come and get more if it's not enough." Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. Spending 10 million taels to expand the iron bone factory was definitely extravagant. There was no other way. Sect leader Jun lacked cultivation and a large number of talented disciples. The only thing he didn't lack was money. The next day, under the direction of Li Qingyang, the expansion of the Iron Bone Academy's inner courtyard was in full swing. The other disciples continued to cultivate as usual. Sect leader Jun, on the other hand, went to Huyang City after the morning exercise. He bought the mid-grade spirit gathering pill formula, but he lacked the ingredients and seeds to refine it. Sect leader Jun. Inside the medicine shop, Ai Shangyao hurried over and said gratefully, "Guarding Qingyang City is equivalent to guarding Qingyang County. This is a great favor. It's just a small matter." "It's not worth mentioning," Jun Changshao said. Ai Shangyao's mouth twitched. He faced 300,000 soldiers from Xinjiang County head-on and even killed by Ruehu. If this was a small matter, then what was a big matter? Family head Ai. Jun Changshao returned to the main topic. I came this time to purchase some herbs and seeds. As he spoke, he handed over a list of materials. AI Shangyao looked at it carefully and said, Sect leader Jun, we don't have many of these herbs in stock, but we do have a lot of seeds. I'll take all of them, Jun Changshao said straightforwardly. With Elder Wei and the medicine hall around, the seeds were definitely more valuable than normal herbs. AI Shangyao was very efficient. In just an hour, a large batch of herbs and seeds for the mid-grade spirit gathering pill was delivered. How much is it? Sect leader Jun helped Qingyang County resolve the disaster. I'm very grateful. I'll give it all to you for free. This, Jun Changshao reluctantly said, all right then. Before he left, he gave AI Shangyao dozens of healing pills and body-shaping pills. On the main street, Sect leader Jun walked straight, and the people in the city all looked at him with gratitude and admiration. Li Er. A woman hugged a 3-year-old boy and said, this is the sect leader of Iron Bone Clan. He's the benefactor of Qingyang County. Mother. The child said with a determined gaze, when I grow up, I'll definitely join Iron Bone Clan. Sect leader Jun, an old man, knelt down and said, please accept this old man's bow. He wasn't a native of Qingyang County. 100 years ago, he moved here with his family. The reason for moving was that his hometown had been baptized by war. As someone who had been through it, the old man knew better than anyone the cruelty of war and the importance of a peaceful life. Therefore, he knelt down to thank sect leader Jun. When I wrote this paragraph, I thought of my great-grandmother. She was still alive and was almost 100 years old. When she was young, it was the era when China was invaded by foreign enemies. She took her grandfather, my grandfather, who was still young, to avoid the bombardment of the Japanese shells. We live in a peaceful era, so how can we understand how the older generation of people who were born in a war era live in fear and trepidation? So, we can't forget the shame of the country. Countless ancestors shed their blood to ensure that the country is prosperous and the people are at peace. The future generations should always remember it in their hearts. Old man, please get up. Jun Changshao waved his sleeve, and gentle spiritual energy helped the kneeling old man up. However, just as he helped him up, the people standing on the street knelt on the ground. Sect leader Jun, everyone kowtowed and said, please accept our bow. This, Jun Changshao was very embarrassed and hurriedly left Huyang City. However, just as he walked to a remote area, 2 black shadows flew out from the darkness, their bodies erupting with dense psionic energy. From the aura, they were definitely martial kings. Boom! Boom! Jun Changshao suddenly turned around and directly blasted the person who ambushed him out. Thump! 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 The 2 black shadows landed on the ground and staggered back. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They hit so well and suddenly attacked, but he actually counterattacked so quickly. His reaction was too fast. Jun Changshao retracted his palm and sneered, the 2 of you have been following me for a long time, right? Yes. They had been following him since Huyang City. Sect leader Jun, a rough-looking man in black in his early 30s, cupped his hands and said, your strength is indeed strong. We 2 brothers admire you. Jun Changshao said indifferently, are you people from Xinjiang County? No. People from Demon Fiend Sect? No. People from Deicide Temple? Not either. Jun Changshao was puzzled. He only had these few enemies. If none of them were from Demon Fiend Sect, who could have sent them? Sect leader Jun, the man in black, cupped his hands and said, we 2 brothers have no sect and have been wandering the world all year round. We want to join the Iron Bone Clan. Ha! Jun Changshao was stunned. 2 martial kings took the initiative to join the Iron Bone Clan. This way of opening was a little wrong. Chapter 495. The 2 martial kings who attacked from the dark were about the same age as him, in their early 30s. They also looked similar, so they should be blood brothers. They wanted to join Iron Bone, which made Jun Changshao dumbfounded. Two martial kings wanted to join them just by going out for a trip. This was a bit too mysterious. Or could it be that I have reached the stage where experts from all walks of life would fight to be my underling? Under normal circumstances, Sect leader Jun would definitely suspect that the two of them were spies. However, joining Iron Bone would mean that they would be restricted. They would not dare to obtain information or have their memories erased. Therefore, he was not worried at all. Sect leader Jun said, "You two are martial kings. You should be quite famous in Jianghu, right?" The older man in black cupped his hands and said, "My name is Ning Duxing. My brother is Ning Duzue. Because we broke through to martial king by chance, we are not famous in Jianghu." Ning Duxing. Ning Duzue. Everyone is drunk, I am the only one awake. Everyone is awake, I am the only one drunk. This name was really unique. Ning Duxing said, "We heard that sect leader Jun dared to fight against Jinyang County. You are a man of indomitable spirit, so we came to seek shelter. Please accept us." So that's how it is. Jun Changshao understood. However, you guys came to seek shelter. You didn't have to sneak attack in the dark, right? In fact, the two brothers were just testing the waters. Although their spiritual power was strong, they did not have any killing intent. Because of your names, I will allow you to join Iron Bone sect. Jun Changshao took out the entry form that he always carried with him. Iron Bone was in urgent need of talented martial cultivators. Since two martial kings came to seek shelter, they would definitely welcome them warmly. Because of my name? Ning Duxing and Ning Duzue looked at each other. Their expressions were a bit interesting. Ding! Sect members, 500-210000. Ding! Sect contribution points, 500-210000. After accepting the two, Jun Changshao said, "Let's go. Follow me back to Iron Bone sect." Yes. The two Ning brothers cupped their hands and said. From their tone, it was obvious that they had already entered the role of Iron Bone disciples. Sect leader Jun couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Were they really sincere in coming to rely on him? The eldest brother, Ning Duxing, was more cheerful and talkative. His brother, Ning Duzue, was more indifferent. He had only said yes from the beginning to the end. What are your realms? On the way, Jun Changshao asked. Reporting to Sect Master. Ning Duxing said, both of us are rank 5 martial kings now. TSK. For these two rogue cultivators to be able to become martial kings and even break through to rank 5, they must have had an extraordinary fortuitous encounter. Speaking of fortuitous opportunities, sect leader Jun thought of Ren Shan. Was it because he had recruited him into the Iron Bone that he was so lucky that even the martial king had sided with him? Sect leader. In the main hall, Li Qingyang sent a voice transmission in astonishment. These two martial kings, were they really picked up on the road? Okay, Jun Changshao replied. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. Sect leader went to Huyang City and came back to pick up two martial kings. It was truly inconceivable. Jiangye sent a voice transmission. Sect leader, I've heard of these two people. They seem to be from the southeast province. They roam the Jianghu all year round and are called the Ning Duo. Jun Changshao asked in astonishment, they are bandits? Jiangye said, they specialize in robbing the rich to help the poor, so they are called bandits. Later on, they offended too many people and couldn't survive in the southeast province. They began to wander around. The common people called them the Ning Duo. The circle of martial kings was only so big. Those who were slightly famous would definitely be known by their peers. So that's how it is. Jun Changshao suddenly understood. At this moment, he finally understood why these two brothers came to him to seek refuge. Why? Because he had defended Qingyang City and protected countless common people. Since these two were chivalrous people, they must have been moved by what he had done and were willing to lower themselves to become Iron Bone disciples. Sigh. Jun Changshao thought to himself, if there were more chivalrous people like them in the world, I wouldn't have to worry about not being able to recruit capable people. You're thinking too much. The system said, in the Falling Star continent, where martial arts are respected, such people are as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. Jun Changshao ignored it and ordered, Qingyang, you're in charge of these two people. Yes. Li Qingyang led the Ning brothers to the inner courtyard and told them about the sect. Martial kings. Our Iron Bone disciples are getting more and more powerful. Even such powerhouses are willing to join us. We can't embarrass the sect leader. We still need to work hard in cultivation. The Iron Bone disciples heard the news and came over, all of them whispering. In the past, they, who were born ordinary, had never thought that one day they would be in the same sect as martial kings and be in close contact with them. In the herb garden. With Elder Wei's expansion, it had reached a size of 1,000 acres. Jun Changshao walked over and looked at the rich spiritual energy gathered in the sky. His eyes immediately filled with pride. The Iron Bone Mountain, which was originally in the middle of nowhere, had undergone earth-shattering changes under his management. He was absolutely filled with a sense of accomplishment. Just you wait. Sect Master Jun swore in his heart, I will turn this mountain into a holy land for martial artists. Everyone will come from all directions to worship me. The system said, this goal is as difficult as making the sect the strongest in the Falling Star continent. It's only challenging if it's difficult. Jun Changshao said. Isn't it just the beginning of hell mode? Since I've shouldered such a fate, I will never give up or surrender. Elder Wei. Jun Changshao said, I have some high-level seeds here. Divide a medicinal field and plant them. Okay. Elder Wei took the seeds and looked at them carefully. How long will it take to mature? Jun Changshao asked. Elder Wei said, a month. A month? It wasn't too long. He could afford to wait. Elder Wei didn't directly plant the seeds in the medicinal field. Instead, he placed them in the seed incubation pool for nurturing first. Jun Changshao returned to the courtyard. At this moment, a ding sound rang in his ears. AI Shangyao had given him a lot of ready-made medicinal herbs that could be used to refine mid-grade qi gathering pills, so he had already started refining on the way back to the sect. In the study. Little Long Long was still asleep and showed no signs of waking up. Jun Changshao sat down and took out the newly refined mid-grade qi gathering pills from his interspatial ring. He enveloped them with his spiritual sense and muttered, the spiritual energy is so abundant. The medicinal herbs that AI Shangyao gave were all ordinary, and the pills refined were also very ordinary. The speed of increasing spiritual energy was only 30 times. I'll let the inner sect disciples take these pills first. The next day, Jun Changshao sent the hundreds of mid-grade qi gathering pills into the pill machine. In the martial arts practice field, a melodious divine song rang out. Jun Changshao led the disciples in a dance. The Ning brothers, who had just joined Iron Bone, looked ashamed. After the dance, they wished they could find a hole to hide in. There was no other way. Morning exercises and dancing were a major feature of Iron Bone. Even martial kings were no exception. Chapter 496. How could a martial king be a disciple in the sect? So sect leader Jun started to think about what kind of position to give them. Hall master. There didn't seem to be any other halls for them to manage. The system suggested, the sect lacks elders. Why don't you appoint them as elders? That's possible. Jun Changshao also thought about it, but he held his chin and said, we can't give them that right after they enter the sect. We need to observe them carefully. How would he observe them? After thinking about it, he decided to let the Ning brothers teach the disciples first. Jiang Ye was overjoyed when he heard the news. As the only elder in the sect, he would hold a lecture every once in a while to guide the disciples on the path of martial arts. At first, Jiang Ye didn't think much of it. He even thought it was a good job. But when he met Shengguan Xinyao, it was the beginning of the tragedy. This girl with extremely high martial arts attainments asked as many questions as the stars in the sky. Elder Jiang had a splitting headache from all the questions. He wished he was dead. Every time he went to teach Wu-Tang, he would rush to the battlefield with the determination to never return. To be able to torture our Elder Jiang like this, it was obvious how terrifying Shengguan Xinyao was. Now that the sect leader sent 2 martial kings to teach the disciples martial arts, wasn't it the same as breaking free from the sea of suffering? Jiang Ye was so excited that he almost drank in the cafeteria to celebrate. Sect leader Jun let the Ning brothers start by teaching the disciples and observe them for a month. If their performance was good, it wasn't impossible to appoint them as elders. After making the necessary arrangements, he began to focus on his cultivation. However, because they were martial kings, not only did they need to consume a lot of resources, they also needed a long time. Cultivating step by step is still too slow. Jun Changshao murmured, "If I complete the mission and get experience talismans to break through, that's the best way." The system said, "Dream on." Jun Changshao ignored it and started to think about the hidden missions he had completed recently. He wanted to see if there were any missions that were related to eliminating evil for the people. In the end, there were too many hidden missions related to idioms. No matter how he thought about it, he didn't have a clue. The system said, hidden missions are about letting nature take its course. Host should focus on the right path. AI. Jun Changshao withdrew his unrealistic thoughts and skillfully opened the middle-tier store. Previously, he had bought quite a number of formulas, but because he didn't have enough contribution points, he hadn't finished browsing through all of them. It was a pity. The subsequent products had no purchase value. With a thought, Jun Changshao spent 100 contribution points to refresh the shop. His luck was too bad. After browsing through all the new products, he still didn't see anything decent. Sect Master Jun was greatly disappointed. "I have 5 points of luck. Why didn't I get anything good?" The system said, "The luck value only increases the host's luck. It's not like there's a 100% chance of getting something good." Jun Chang opened the shop and his eyes lit up when he saw the new product. The second item in the first row was a secret manual. Written on it were 4 bold and powerful words: 10,000 swords return to origin. Sword play. This was a sword technique. Jun Changshao hurriedly clicked on the details. Item, 10,000 returning swords. Introduction, a forbidden sword technique from a certain dimension. It was later modified and perfected by a mysterious almighty being. Its power is unfathomable. Effect, it is divided into 3 realms. The first realm is 10,000 swords return to 1. The second realm is 10,000 swords. The third realm is if I am the sword, there will be no sword under the heavens. Advantage, this technique is extraordinarily powerful after being modified. It can be considered a top-grade sword technique. Disadvantage, it is difficult to learn, difficult to master, and consumes a lot of energy. Even if you comprehend it, do not use it rashly unless you are a sword king or above. Otherwise, you will suffer a backlash. If light, you will be injured. If heavy, you will die. Price, 2,000 contribution points. Level, none. None. Seeing the level introduction, Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. From the introduction and advantages, this was definitely a very powerful sword technique. How could it not have a level? The system explained, in the vast universe, there are as many experts as there are clouds. Some almighty beings may have created martial techniques that are beyond the system's calculation range, so it is unable to give an accurate level classification. Jun Changshao said in surprise, even the system can't calculate it. This 10,000 swords return to origin must be super powerful. Ding! Host has spent 2,000 contribution points. You have obtained 10,000 swords return to origin X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 280210000. After purchasing the 10,000 swords returned to origin, the system did not automatically match it with the sect's cultivation technique. It could be seen that this sword technique was not suitable for disciples to cultivate in large quantities. Thinking about it, it made sense. After all, it was a sword technique. Among the Iron Bone disciples, only Zhou Hong had the aptitude for the sword. Shwa! Sect leader Jun waved his hand and took out the sword technique that emitted the sword force. He couldn't wait to read it. However, after just looking at the first stage, 10,000 swords returned to one, he felt like he understood it. He couldn't help but sigh, it's a bit difficult. The martial techniques bought in the mall were easy to understand, no matter how high the level was. Only the Ling Jian divine art and the 10,000 swords returned to origin were exceptions. Still, Sword Dao martial arts were so unfathomable. Even if it's difficult, I have to learn it. In the following time, Jun Changshao focused on comprehending the sword technique and didn't even cultivate. However, 10,000 swords returned to origin was too profound. Sect leader Jun cultivated in his room for 5 days and only comprehended a little. This question is too difficult. He hugged his head and roared to the sky, I don't know how to do it, I don't know how to do it. Everyone thought that sect leader Jun was extremely monstrous now. He was the king of martial arts and the king of sword Dao. Little did they know that he was stumped by a sword technique. This also meant that there were countless martial arts in the world, and there was no lack of profound and unfathomable martial arts. I don't believe this. Sect leader Jun and the 10,000 swords returned to origin were exhausted. He handed over the sect's matters to Li Qingyang and Li Luoqiu and completely focused on comprehending the sword technique. This shouldn't be. Why is this question so difficult? Every once in a while, when a disciple passed by the courtyard and occasionally heard a breakdown, he couldn't help but secretly ask, what's wrong with sect leader? Time flew. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. The medicinal herbs needed to refine mid-grade qi gathering pills had matured under the hard work of Elder Wei and the members of the medicine hall. Sect leader Jun was still cooped up in his room and didn't come out. Second senior brother. Lu Wancher sent the food over as usual and said worriedly, sect leader still locked himself in his room. He hasn't eaten for a few days. Is he seriously ill? Li Qingyang almost fell over. This little girl still spoke so innocently. Sigh. Li Qingyang shook his head and said, I didn't expect that eldest senior sister's departure would bring such a big blow to sect leader. If Jun Changshao heard this, he would definitely send a flying kick over. Abnormal your head. I'm comprehending a profound sword technique, not because of Lu Qianshan. Senior brother. Su Xiaoma said, let's go and persuade sect leader. Don't let him miss eldest senior sister too much. All right. Li Qingyang led the disciples to the courtyard. Just as they reached the door, they heard loud laughter coming from the room. Lu Wancher said nervously, sect leader can't be crazy, right? Boom! Suddenly, the door was pushed open. A cold sword aura erupted, blowing everyone's black hair into a mess. Ta! Jun Changshao took a big step forward and laughed. I understand this question. Li Qingyang and the other disciples were dumbfounded. They hadn't seen each other for a month. Sect leader's hair was messy, and he was sloppy, like a beggar on the street. Sect leader. Su Xiaoma said weakly, Are you okay? Jun Changshao pushed away the messy hair covering his eyes and laughed. Today, I'll let you see what it means to unite 10,000 swords into one. Swoosh! He jumped and flew to the top of the main hall. As a result, as soon as he landed on it, his feet slipped and he fell straight down. Plop! Aya! Chapter 497. Humans were made of iron and rice was made of steel. If he did not eat, he would be hungry. Sect Master Jun, who had not eaten for 6 or 7 days, was preparing to show off in front of his disciples. However, when he landed on the main hall, his body collapsed and he fell down. It was a pity that he failed to show off and ended up losing. In the dining hall, Jun Changshao, who had a big bump on his head, was wolfing down food. There were already a few plates beside him. Sect Master, eat slowly. Don't choke, Lu Wancher said worriedly. Phew. After eating a few more dishes and 2 bowls of rice, Jun Changshao put down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth with a napkin. Your culinary skills are getting better. It was not that his culinary skills were good. It was because he had been hungry for too long. Even if it was a bowl of cabbage stew, he could taste the delicacies. Sect Master. Lu Wancher blinked her eyes and said, the culinary competition in southwest Yangzhou will begin in a month. Ha! Jun Changshao scratched his head and said awkwardly, if you did not mention it, I would have forgotten. He had experienced too many things recently. How could he remember? Lu Wancher's eyes were filled with resentment as she said dejectedly, I knew that Sect Master did not take it seriously. Don't worry. Jun Changshao patted her head and smiled gently, I will bring you to participate and let the world know what it means to be a god of cooking. He had promised in the past that he would bring Lu Wancher. Furthermore, the matter in Jinyang County was settled. There was nothing else to do. He could spare some time to go out and walk around. Perhaps he would be able to pick up 4,988 martial kings with monstrous aptitudes. Just as Jun Changshao was dreaming, Lu Wancher placed a bowl of fried rice on the table and said with a smile, this is the fried rice that I recently developed. After eating it, you can increase your strength. Sect Master, please try it. Jun Changshao immediately became nervous. He had once eaten the strength food made by the little girl. In the end, he was carried to the medicine hall for emergency treatment. It was definitely a psychological shadow. Lu Wancher said with a serious face, Sect Master, disciple now knows many herbs like the back of her hand. The food that I developed this time will definitely not have any poison. Please eat it without worry. Jun Changshao was still worried. But when he saw that the little girl's face was full of expectation and didn't want to refuse, he could only pick up the fried rice and then walk out of the cafeteria. He called Su Xiaoma, who was playing soccer outside, over and said, finish the fried rice. If he didn't dare to do it himself, he would have his disciple do it. This was really particular. Sect leader. Su Xiaoma said, this disciple has just eaten. I'm not hungry yet. Just eat when I tell you to. Stop talking nonsense. Oh. Su Xiaoma took the fried rice. Just as he was about to pick up his chopsticks to eat, he heard Lu Wancher say with a smile, Senior brother, this is a strength food that I developed. After eating it, you can increase your strength. Ah! Su Xiaoma was stunned. The scene of the sect master spitting out white foam and his entire body twitching as he was carried into the medicine hall appeared in his mind. Sect master, he was about to cry as he said, can this disciple not eat? I must. Jun Changshao took out a pill and said, this is an antidote pill. If you feel that something is wrong, you can take it immediately. The antidote pill is already prepared. Today, I have to be prepared to die and test the poison with my body. Sect Master. Su Xiaoma held the fried rice, his eyes filled with determination as he said, this disciple will still be a disciple of the Iron Bone Upright sect in my next life. As he spoke, he swallowed a mouthful resolutely. Gradually, Su Xiaoma's expression changed. His muscles began to twist, giving people the feeling that he was poisoned. Sect Master Jun hurriedly stuffed the antidote pill into his mouth. However, Su Xiaoma picked up his chopsticks and finished the fried rice. Then, he said with joy, Sect Master, this fried rice is not only delicious, but it can also increase strength. Gah! Jun Changshao was stunned. Bang! Su Xiaoma punched the testing machine. His strength was 400,000 jin. In the month that Sect Master Jun comprehended the Sword Dao, his realm broke through from the 6th stage to the 7th stage. Wuzong, his strength was 370,000 jin. In other words, after eating Lu Wancher's fried rice, his strength increased by 30,000 jin. Some people might say that it was not much. One had to know that this was just a bowl of fried rice, not a pill, and not a strength-increasing talisman. After eating it, Wuzong's strength increased by 30,000 jin. It was absolutely inconceivable. Let me try. Jun Changshao ordered Lu Wancher to make another bowl of strength fried rice. When he punched the testing machine, his strength was displayed as 4 million jin. An increase of 400,000 jin. The system said, the fried rice made by this little girl contains many types of heaven and earth spiritual energy. It can provide 10% of the host's strength. Compared to the strength-increasing talisman, Lu Wancher's strength fried rice was definitely not worth mentioning. However, it still made Jun Changshao very happy. Food could be made casually without using any herbs. Eating a meal to increase one's combat strength by 10%, this was definitely a very good thing. How long can it last? Jun Changshao asked. After analyzing, the system said, looking at the energy consumption of the host's food, it should last for 2 hours. Not bad. Jun Changshao looked at Lu Wancher and said, your strength fried rice is too magical. Hee. Receiving the sect leader's praise, Lu Wancher smiled brightly. Jun Changshao said, if it can be mass-produced, not only can it be used to satisfy hunger, it can also increase one's strength. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I have already grasped the main points. Frying a few big pots is not a problem. Lu Wancher said. Then what are you waiting for? Jun Changshao urged, hurry up and fry as much as you can. Lu Wancher's strength fried rice was really mysterious. However, it also had its flaws. It had to be eaten to achieve the effect of increasing one's strength. If eating a bite can increase one's strength, that would be even better, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher said, Sect leader, I can improve it. She had learned a lot of knowledge about herbs from Elder Wei, so she could use it to experiment without restraint. Jun Changshao said, then work hard. Try to make a fried rice that can increase one's strength with just a small bite. Lu Wancher nodded heavily, I will. Jun Changshao distributed the few big pots of rice that had just been fried to the disciples, letting them each take a big bowl and store it in their space rings. Other martial cultivators would store pills, crystal cores, silver notes, and various martial resources in their rings. Iron Bone disciples would put fried rice. Not only was this strange, it had to be done thoroughly. Because of the fall, Sect leader Jun was not interested in showing off his 10,000 swords returned to Sect. Instead, he asked the Ning brothers about the situation of teaching the disciples in the past month. Their performance was not bad, and the disciples had benefited greatly. In view of the two's performance, Sect leader Jun announced that the Ning brothers were appointed as elders. At this point, the Iron Bones sect now had 3 elders, all of whom were martial kings. Even a 5th-rate sect could not compare to them. After the appointment, Jun Changshao came to the medicine hall to collect all kinds of herbs. After being nurtured by the seed incubation pool and being carefully cultivated by Elder Wei, the newly matured herbs had abundant spirit energy. Ding! Ding! Middle-grade energy-gathering pills were refined continuously. After Jun Changshao took 1 pill, he judged that the elixir refined from this kind of high spiritual herbs could reach 50 times the absorption speed. My iron bone has resources to improve cultivation faster. If I can't become stronger, it will be unreasonable. Sect leader. Half a month later, Lu Wancher said, the culinary competition is about to start. When are we going? Let's go tomorrow, Jun Changshao said. Okay. The next day, Lu Wancher made a sumptuous meal for herself and the sect leader. After the two ate, they set off with peace of mind. The place they were going to was the heavenly mandate imperial city. It had been almost 2 years since he transmigrated to the other world. Jun Changshao was going to the largest city in southwest Yangzhou for the first time, so he was looking forward to seeing what was different about the imperial city. Chapter 498. There was still half a month before the culinary competition in southwest Yangzhou. Jun Changshao brought Lu Wancher and left. He did not bring the other disciples with him because he hoped that they could increase their cultivation as soon as possible. As for the thousands of middle-grade qi-gathering pills, they had already been distributed to the pill machine. The disciples could receive them at a fixed time. As the sect developed, sect leader Jun would soon be able to take over. If there is a device that is interconnected with the space ring, even if I am not in the sect, I can refine pills, weapons, and other items and distribute them to the various machines with one click. Jun Changshao thought. The system said, yes, but it depends on luck. Is that so? Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. He was traveling around the falling star continent. What if his disciples lacked pills? It was simple. Elder Wei would send the herbs he planted to the equipment and send them to the space ring. After refining them, he would send them to the pill machine to replenish them. Thinking of this, Jun Changshao was even more looking forward to it. Speaking of which, why didn't he just hire some alchemists to refine pills? The system's pill pavilion could easily refine pills with one click. Moreover, the pills refined were extremely awesome. Why would he need to hire an alchemist? Although sect leader Jun was only one person, he could do many kinds of work. Pills, weapons, talismans, and even spirit weapons could be done by himself. He was absolutely omnipotent. What was even more amazing was that he didn't even need to do it himself. It could be said that it saved him a lot of trouble and effort. Standing in the beautiful wilderness, Jun Changshao opened his arms and smelled the intoxicating scent of the grass. He sighed, it's not bad to come out and relax. Lu Wancher sat on a rock, holding her chin with her hand. Her face was filled with conflict. What are you thinking about? Jun Changshao said. Nothing. Lu Wancher said in a panic. Jun Changshao sat down and said, after leaving the sect, you've been frowning. Is there something on your mind? No, Lu Wancher said, no, there's nothing on my mind. Jun Changshao was speechless. Her thoughts were written all over her face. If he couldn't see it, wouldn't he be blind? Let me guess what's on your mind. Jun Changshao pondered for a moment and said, you must have an extraordinary identity to be able to make a strength-enhancing fried rice, right? What kind of extraordinary identity can I have? When Lu Wancher said this, her two big eyes kept shaking. Jun Changshao saw this and continued, as far as I know, there is also a family head in Yangzhou in the southwest who specializes in cooking. The food he makes can improve one's martial strength. Lu Wancher said, are you talking about the Ouyang clan of the heavenly mandate imperial city? Not bad, Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher said, Sect Master thinks I'm from the Ouyang clan. It's hard for me to believe that an ordinary person can make fried rice that increases strength, Jun Changshao said. This meant that he believed that the little girl was from the Ouyang family. Otherwise, how could she develop such a magical food? All right. Lu Wancher said, I'll be honest. I'm related to the Ouyang clan. Jun Changshao was not surprised. After taking in this girl, Lu Qianqian also had doubts. Although he did not take it seriously, he must have thought about it when he was bored. It was not just Lu Wancher. Sect Master Jun had thought about many disciples. The one who thought about it the most was Lu Qianqian, because her intuition told her that the story behind this disciple was definitely not simple. Until now, Jun Changshao still thought that such a talented woman joined the Iron Bones sect to avoid the pursuit of her enemies. So when Lu Qianqian went out to experience the world, she said that no matter what danger she encountered, the sect would be her strongest support. I don't care who the enemy is or how strong they are. If they dared to hurt my disciple, I will use all the power of the sect to kill them. Sect Master Jun's personality was to protect his disciples. It could be seen when his disciples were bullied by the evil sects of Huayang County in Death Valley and were all killed. Just related? Jun Changshao asked. Lu Wancher lowered her head, her small hands clenched together as she said softly, Sect Master, I am actually the illegitimate daughter of the Ouyang clan. She used a lot of courage to say the last 3 words, even her body was trembling slightly. Is that so? Jun Changshao replied. He guessed that Lu Wancher was related to the Ouyang clan, but he didn't expect her to be an illegitimate daughter. In his previous world, illegitimate children did not sound good to begin with, and they would even be criticized by others. In the other world, it was definitely worse than that. My mother was a normal person. Lu Wancher said, she met that bastard and then I was born. That bastard was definitely her father. Then, my mother died from a serious illness, leaving me alone. That bastard found me and brought me back to the Ouyang clan. The more Lu Wancher spoke, the more furious the hatred in her eyes became. Entering the Ouyang clan was the start of her nightmare. Jun Changshao could guess it. An illegitimate daughter entering a big family would definitely be targeted by her own family. Yes. Lu Wancher was often bullied by her own family, and being called a bastard was the most common. Because of her background, the little loli could tolerate it. But the more she tolerated it, the worse it got. She couldn't tolerate it anymore, and one day, she quietly left the Ouyang clan. In order to not be found, Lu Wancher came to the most remote Qingyang County, which was why she met Jun Changshao in Qingyang City. She always followed her mother's surname. Although the surname Ouyang represented honor, she didn't want it at all. If she had a choice, Lu Wancher even wanted to give up the Ouyang clan's blood, even if she had to be the poorest ordinary person. However, her bloodline was born with it, how could she give it up just like that? Lu Wancher's mother was very normal. But she inherited her father's cooking talent. Although she only lived in the Ouyang clan for a year, she had an extraordinary understanding. In this world, there were really people with extraordinary talent. Lu Wancher was one of them. Although she had never entered the Ouyang clan's kitchen, just by secretly watching, she was able to learn by herself. If she received professional guidance, her cooking skills would definitely improve greatly. It was a pity. Because she was an illegitimate daughter, she was destined not to be qualified to learn the Ouyang clan's ancestral cooking skills. If you don't let me learn, I'm too lazy to learn. Lu Wancher began to ponder on her own, and just by relying on her own talent, she successfully developed a fried rice that could improve strength. If this matter was learned by the Ouyang clan, it would definitely cause quite a stir. After all, without learning the Ouyang clan's recipes, she could develop a dish that could improve martial arts strength. It was simply incredible. Thinking of the past that she couldn't bear to look back on, Lu Wancher was in low spirits. She wasn't like Long Xiang, who had to prove to the bullies that he was wronged. She just wanted to cut ties with the Ouyang clan forever. However, the cooking competition was held in the Heavenly Mandate Royal City, and the Ouyang clan would definitely send their direct descendants to participate. What should she do? Jun Changshao touched her head and said with a smile, when you go to the Heavenly Mandate Royal City this time, if the Ouyang clan dares to bully you, I will make them pay a painful price. He set a flag. It seemed that going to the Heavenly Mandate Royal City would be another trip to show off. Chapter 499. There was still plenty of time. Jun Changshao brought Lu Wancher along as they traveled at a moderate pace. They passed by towns and cities to experience the local customs of the other world. However, they did not see the good side. They only saw the dark side. The villages were still fine as the people were simple and honest. In the slightly bigger towns, there would always be some martial cultivators bullying the weak and taking advantage of the weak. Among them, some clans were the most serious. They had hired thugs and servants, and they were unscrupulous bullies when they walked on the streets. The Falling Star continent also had government organizations that were only used to restrain the ordinary people. As for the big clans, they could only turn a blind eye. From what Jun Changshao saw and heard, he deeply realized that although the Azure Sun County was small, the 8 city lords were at least doing something. The outside world was actually so cruel. Bang! In a certain town, a ferocious-looking cultivator kicked out an old singer and said, "It's your fortune that my young master likes your daughter. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Father!" A 15-year-old girl cried. She was surrounded by a few thugs with a smile on her face. These people were the Jin family's hired thugs. The young man in embroidered clothes who looked passable standing next to her was the Jin family's young master. He was a complete good-for-nothing. The passers-by on the street secretly shook their heads, thinking that the girl would not be able to escape today. Mississippi young Master Jin smiled and said, "Since you followed me, I won't treat you badly." As he spoke, he walked over with a lewd look in his eyes. The girl was so frightened that her face turned pale. However, because of the thugs around her, she could not retreat at all. "Sect Master." At that moment, a clear voice sounded. "Is this considered taking liberties with a good woman in broad daylight?" "Yes," someone said. Young Master Jin frowned slightly. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man and a woman walking on the street. The man was about 18 or 19 years old, and the girl was about 11 or 12 years old. Eh! Young Master Jin's eyes lit up when he saw the petite and cute girl. He smiled naughtily and said, "What a beauty." "Sect Master." The girl frowned and said, "This guy's gaze is so annoying." "I'll help you beat him up," the man said. "Beat me up?" Young Master Jin laughed. The group of thugs surrounding the young girl also laughed. Bang! The sound of a fist suddenly rang out. The smiles on the faces of the Jin family's hired thugs immediately froze. This was because the seemingly weak young man was already standing in front of the young master, his fist landing on the young master's chest. His speed was so fast that he didn't even see it. "Does it hurt?" The young man raised his fist and said innocently. Young Master Zhen was still standing in the same spot, but his expression was gradually becoming more and more ferocious. "It hurts. If it hurts, why aren't you flying out?" Young Master Zhen's entire body was lifted off the ground. Then, he flew backward and landed more than 30 meters away. He clutched his chest and screamed like a pig being slaughtered. The commoners on the streets were stunned. He threw a punch and it took a while for it to fly out. What kind of operation was this? An expert. The martial cultivators hidden in the crowd were secretly shocked. In their opinion, someone who could send young Master Jin flying like this definitely had extremely high control over his strength. However, that was the young master of the Jin family. It would be hard to escape unscathed after beating someone up in their territory. As expected, the Jin family's hired thugs came back to their senses. They angrily rushed forward and surrounded the young man. They glared at him as if they wanted to kill him with their eyes. "How dare you hit our young master? Are you alive?" Before a martial cultivator could finish his words, a cold palm flew directly toward him. Slap! The young man slapped him in the face. Then, he waved his other hand and accurately hit the faces of the surrounding martial cultivators. Slap! 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 In an instant, 6 or 7 of the Jin family's hired thugs were sent flying. The people on the streets were completely dumbfounded. That young man clearly kept a certain distance from the Jin family's hired thugs, but when he attacked, they felt as if he was right in front of them. An expert, an expert. The martial cultivators were shocked. Young Master Zhen, who got up from the ground, clutched his chest and said angrily, "Despicable guy, just you wait." He hurriedly turned around and fled in a sorry state. He wanted to go home and ask for help. He wanted to call all the hired thugs of his family to tear this guy into pieces. Father. In the Jin family's main hall, the Jin family's patriarch was talking with a guest. When he heard his son's crying voice, his face suddenly darkened. "Father." Young Master Jin staggered in. With tears in his eyes, he said, "I was beaten up outside." Slap! The Jin family's patriarch slammed the table and said angrily, "Who is so bold?" "It's me." A voice came from outside. Young Master Jin was stunned. He hurriedly looked outside and saw that the young man who beat him had actually followed him in. He gritted his teeth and said, "Father, it's him." The Jin family's patriarch strode out. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He said, "Kid, how did you get in?" "I walked in," the young man said. The Jin family's patriarch's face was extremely ugly. Were the guards at the gate idiots? They let an outsider walk in without any scruples. They were idiots. Because they were all beaten into idiots. They were lying on the ground together, twitching all over. "Kid." The guest also came out. He stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "You beat up young Master Jin and trespassed into the Jin family's residence. You are really bold." Jin family's patriarch. He said, "Let me take action on your behalf and teach this ignorant kid a lesson." The Jin family's patriarch said, "Thank you." This was a Wuzong-level elder of a fifth-rate sect. If he personally took action on behalf of his family, it would be very honorable. "Kid." Elder son said coldly, "Hurry up and kneel down and apologize to the Jin family's patriarch. Then, I can spare your life. Otherwise," his voice stopped abruptly when he said this. Because he glanced at the waist tag hanging on the young man's waist. There were 4 words engraved on it: unyielding iron bone. Elder son's face changed drastically. He said in shock, You are a disciple of the unyielding iron bone sect? Unyielding iron bone sect? The Jin family's patriarch was stunned. He had naturally heard of the sect that was in the limelight recently. Coincidentally, the two of them were just talking about the Iron Bones sect and the sect master bringing his disciples to Huayang County to destroy the 4 evil sects. Whoosh! The young man appeared in front of Elder Son and threw a punch. Bang! Elder Son's face suddenly became ferocious after his abdomen was hit hard. Then, he fell down like a pile of mud. Ga! The Jin family's patriarch was dumbfounded. How? How did this guy come over? Slap! The young man reached out and grabbed the Jin family's patriarch's neck. He looked at Elder Son who was lying on the ground and said, "I killed him. Do you have any objections? This seat? Could he be Jun Changshao?" Elder Son endured the pain and said hurriedly, "No objections. No objections." The young man looked at the Jin family's patriarch and said indifferently, "If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. You are not a good person either." Crack! The young man tightened his grip. The Jin family's patriarch did not even have the chance to speak before his head tilted to the side. "Father!" Young Master Jin was terrified. The young man threw the corpse aside and walked in front of him. He said, "Don't cheat your father again in your next life." Whoosh! A sword flashed and the head fell to the ground. The town was in an uproar. The heads of the Jin family's patriarch and his son, who had committed all kinds of crimes, were hanging on the city gate. There were also 4 words written in blood on the wall: unyielding iron bone. Unyielding iron bone? Is it the Azure Sun County's unyielding iron bone sect? The 4 evil sects that were destroyed in Huayang County also left behind similar words. It must be them. While the crowd was discussing, the young man who brought the girl away heard a crisp sound. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission, Punish Evil and Eliminate Evil 5. You have received 500 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 480210000. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the series of missions, Punish Evil and Eliminate Evil. You have received 2000 contribution points and the title, Chivalrous Light. Ding! Sect contribution points, 680210000. Chapter 500. On the way to the heavenly mandate Imperial City, Jun Changshao encountered a group of ruffians bullying the weak. They were almost beaten to death. Finally, under Lu Wancher's pleas, he acted to punish them. In the end, he unexpectedly completed the second hidden mission, Punish Evil and Eliminate Evil. The first time this mission appeared was to destroy the Black Eagle Hall. Now that it was completed again, Master Jun realized that it was a series of missions like eliminating evil for the people. As a result, Master Jun went from being indifferent to a chivalrous warrior who walked the world with his sword. As long as he passed by a city and encountered a bully, he would definitely teach them a lesson. As for the vicious ones, he would kill them mercilessly. The system once said, "Without such a mission, you will definitely not do good." Nonsense. Jun Changshao said, "In this dangerous world, if there is no reward, I will definitely not do good." For a few days, he taught a lot of bullies and took care of many ruffians. The missions of Punish Evil and Eliminate Evil were completed one after another. Each mission gave him 500 contribution points. It was to find targets better. Jun Changshao asked around as he hurried along. He learned that the Jin family of Tongling Town was a playboy who did all kinds of evil. So he locked on to his target and rushed over with Lu Wancher. The rumors were true. As soon as he entered the town, he saw the Jin family bullying people. Especially when the father learned that his son was being bullied, his eyes were full of murderous intent. He was obviously not a good person. Master Jun went all out and dealt with the father and son together. In this way, the series of missions of Punish Evil and Eliminate Evil were completed. He received a total of 4,000 contribution points and a title of Light of Chivalry. Nice! Master Jun walked on the road and opened the system panel. He put on the new title. His luck increased from the initial 5 points to 10 points. Master, Lu Wancher said, "If we kill them and leave them behind, others will know that we did it." Jun Chang smiled and said, "I just want to let others know." The system was speechless. "Are you not afraid of trouble?" "I am," Jun Changshao said. The system broke down. "If you are afraid, why did you leave clues? Are you looking for trouble?" Jun Changshao said, "If the Jin family wants revenge but can't find the murderer, will they vent their anger on the people I saved?" The system was silent for a moment, then said, "Yes. That's why I want them to know who killed them and who they should seek revenge from." Jun Changshao shrugged. So that's what he was thinking. Furthermore, Jun Changshao said, "Killing these evil people is undoubtedly doing the people a favor. Letting the world know that it was our Iron Bone Jing sect who did this, won't it also raise our prestige?" It was true. Everyone in Tongling Town was talking about the Iron Bone Righteous sect at this moment. They had deep respect for them. Young Master Zhen had been a tyrant in the town for a long time. Countless innocent women had been harmed by him. Now that he had been killed by Iron Bone, it was a great satisfaction. If the system had reputation, my chivalrous deeds would definitely have increased a lot, Jun Changshao said. The system poured cold water on him, it will also bring unnecessary trouble. Lingyao Sect. Elder son, who was injured in the Jin family, walked into the main hall with a pale face. "Elder Sunday," an elder asked in surprise, "What happened to you?" Elder son said, "I was injured." That person was instantly furious, "Who ate the bear's heart and leopard's guts?" "Don't mention it." Elder son's face was ugly, "I almost died." Shwa. At this moment, the patriarch of Lingyao sect walked in with a cold expression. Who did this? His sect's elder was injured. Naturally, he would not let it go. The other elders also walked in. Their eyes were filled with anger. It was as if all of them were going to move out and take revenge on the culprit. Patriarch. Elder son said, "It's Jun Changshao." Jun Changshao. An elder said coldly, "Who is this? Why haven't I heard of?" Wait. Jun Changshao. It sounded a little familiar. Patriarch of Lingyao sect was shocked. Iron Bone Clan's sect leader? That's right. Elder son said, "It's him." The elder's expressions changed drastically. Ling Yao's sect had naturally heard of the Iron Bone clan's sect leader who had been in the limelight recently. Especially outside Qinyang City, when he defeated 3 martial kings of Xinyang County with a strong cultivation, it was widely spread. Who would have thought that the one who injured Elder's son would be him? Cough. Patriarch of Ling Yao's sect's anger dissipated as he said, "Third Elder, how is the cultivation of the disciples recently?" Reporting to Patriarch. Third Elder said, "Their cultivation is not bad. Many disciples have broken through." The other elders who were furious instantly calmed down and began to talk softly. They completely forgot that Elder's son had been injured. The 4 evil sects of Huaying County were destroyed, and the peak martial kings of God-slaying Hall were scared away. The Iron Bone clan could not be provoked. After completing the series of missions to punish evil, sect leader Jun no longer chose to walk the official path. When there were benefits, he was a chivalrous man. If there were no benefits, he would just pretend that he didn't see them. This guy was really realistic. After obtaining a lot of contribution points, Jun Changshao had the courage to open the intermediate store again. Unfortunately, the last time he refreshed, he only gave a 10,000 swords return to Sect, and there were no other valuable items. He could only spend 100 contribution points to continue refreshing. Among the new products, there was one that attracted sect leader Jun's attention. That was Chinese recipes. There's such a thing in the store. Only you can't think of it. There's nothing that can't be refreshed. He clicked on the introduction and learned that there were 8 major cuisines recorded in this Chinese recipe. They were Shandong cuisine, Sichuan cuisine, Guangdong cuisine, Jiangsu cuisine, Zhejiang cuisine, Min cuisine, Hunan cuisine, and Anhui cuisine. The price was 1,000 contribution points. I can buy it and let Du learn it, and let Chinese cuisine go to the world, go to another world. Jun Changshao thought. Ding! Host has spent 1,000 contribution points and obtained Chinese recipes X1. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 570210000. Jun Changshao took out the recipe, and said, "I have a recipe here, you can take it and study it." Recipe? Lu Wancher pointed to her head, and said with a smile, "Sect leader, I have recipes in here." Ha! This little girl was quite confident. Jun Changshao said, "This recipe of mine is a gathering of heroes." Is that so? Lu Wancher took the Chinese recipe with some suspicion, then casually flipped through it, and then she couldn't help but be immersed in it. After a long time, the little girl exclaimed, "Sect leader, there are many dishes in this recipe that I have never heard of before. The recipe was passed down from ancient times, it is my Iron Bone sect's treasure." Jun Changshao said, "Today, I will hand it over to you, I hope it can be carried forward." Passed down from ancient times, the treasure of the sect? Lu Wancher's eyes widened, she immediately hugged the Chinese recipe book tightly, and said with an incomparably serious face, "This disciple will follow sect leader's orders, and will definitely carry forward the recipe." The system said, "Shameless." Chapter 501. Sect leader Jun was really shameless to say that the Chinese cookbook was a treasure passed down from ancient times. Lu Wancher believed it. On the way to the heavenly mandate imperial city, she studied the cookbook and was stunned by every dish and every process of the 8 major cuisines. Sect leader, Lu Wancher said in surprise. "With this cookbook, I have more confidence in participating in the culinary competition." There were many dishes in the Chinese cookbook that she had never seen before. As long as she controlled the heat and seasoning well, she would definitely achieve good results in the competition. Jun Changshao said, "We must win first place and show the power of my Iron Bone." Yes. Lu Wancher nodded heavily. However, Jun Changshao said, "Before that, you have to practice more." Lu Wancher smiled and said, "Sect leader, what dish do you want to eat? I can try to make it." Ah. Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, let's start with a dish of sweet and sour carp. This was Shandong cuisine, and also his hometown cuisine. Boom! In the river, there was a wave, and different kinds of fish were directly blown out and then fell to the ground. Jun Changshao put away the AMW sniper rifle and said, see if there are any carps. System, eating fish and using a gun to blow it up, this operation was really strange. Lu Wancher ran over and picked up a big carp, smiling brightly. Sect leader, there are several. Take them all. Okay. With the fish, Lu Wancher began to set up the stove and then prepared the seasoning. Sect leader, there is no white sugar. This, Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, use honey instead. As he spoke, he released his spiritual senses and successfully locked onto a beehive in the distance. Then, he swaggered over. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The bees flew out and sensed danger approaching. They immediately launched an attack. Unfortunately, facing sect leader Jun, who was covered in armor, they could not cause any damage at all. The system completely collapsed. Using a spirit armor to get honey, this was making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm happy to. Jun Changshao said, is it any of your business? Not only did this fellow have to use the spear to fry the fish, he also had to use the spirit armor to block the attacks of the little bees. He even had to use the exquisite fire to control the fire at the bottom of the pot for Lu Wancher. One word, horsefly. Whoosh! The exquisite fire burned under the stove. Lu Wancher put on an apron and followed the recipe, focusing on cooking. A serious woman is the most beautiful. A serious loli was even cuter. A short while later, the golden-colored sweet and sour carp was ready. Since the author was worried that the readers would learn it, the process of Lu Wancher's cooking and every step was encrypted. Want to learn? Go and do your own research. Jun Changshao took a bite and savored it carefully. How is it? Lu Wancher blinked, her eyes filled with anticipation. Jun Changshao praised, crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, sweet and sour, fragrant and delicious. Not bad, not bad. In fact, it was different from the sweet crisp carp he had eaten before. The difference was that it lacked the taste of his hometown. It was normal. Even if a person from another world mastered the recipe of sweet and sour carp, he might not be able to make a soulful authentic Shandong dish. I don't know if I will be able to eat the most authentic hometown dish in my lifetime. Jun Changshao was homesick again. Headmaster Lu Wancher said, during the culinary competition, I will use this dish to compete with them. Done. Jun Changshao smiled and said, the championship is guaranteed. Lu Wancher said, the culinary competition is the same as the sect competition. We have to go through several competitions. It's not enough to rely on one dish. Then choose a few more dishes from the recipe. Okay. Jun Changshao and Lu Wancher continued to move toward the heavenly mandate royal city. Because they took the small roads and did not enter the city for sightseeing, their speed was faster. 10 days later, the two entered the territory of the heavenly mandate royal city. It was worthy of being the face of Yangzhou in the southwest. The official road was very grand, and there was no problem for several carriages to travel side by side. The passers-by on the road were also of high cultivation. TSK, TSK. Jun Changshao said in surprise, Wuzong is everywhere, and there are as many martial arts masters as dogs. The system said, are there more rich people in a small county, or in the city? Of course it's in the city, Jun Changshao said without hesitation. The system said, so, in this kind of royal city, it's normal to see Wuzong everywhere. Jun Changshao said, Yangzhou in the southwest is just ordinary in the Starfall continent. If we go to a stronger state, will Wuzong be everywhere, and there are as many martial kings as dogs? If the host wants to be a dog so much, can I cooperate and say it? The system said. Go to hell. Step, step, step. On the official road behind them, dozens of martial arts cultivators in tight clothes galloped over on horses. These horses were tall and red all over, and there were flames under their feet. They looked very majestic. "Red flame soldiers!" someone exclaimed. The passers-by's expression changed, and they hurriedly made way, with fear in their eyes. "Headmaster," Lu Wancher said telepathically, "these are the Imperial Guards of the Heavenly Mandate Royal City. Let's get out of the way." "Oh," Jun Changshao responded. Just as he turned his body sideways, dozens of soldiers riding on horses galloped past him. Just as Sect leader Jun turned around, the leader of the group walked past him. Intentionally or unintentionally, he turned his head and met Sect leader Jun's eyes for a brief moment. It was a woman. She was wearing red armor, and her black hair danced in the wind. She looked very valiant. The two of them made eye contact for a brief moment and immediately separated. If this was in a TV series, there would be all kinds of slow-motion scenes, and all kinds of replays that lasted for dozens of seconds to show how a man and woman inadvertently made eye contact. Oh my God! The one riding the horse just now was Princess Red Lotus. Isn't Princess Red Lotus cultivating in the Heavenly Mandate Academy? Why would she appear outside the city? The passers-by on the road suddenly started to talk, and their eyes were full of admiration. "Headmaster," Lu Wancher said excitedly, "the one who just passed by was Princess Red Lotus. Is she very powerful?" Jun Changshao asked. "Princess Red Lotus is the daughter of the city lord of the Heavenly Mandate Royal City. She has the body of fire spirit and is one of the top geniuses in southwest Yangzhou and even the entire Star Zone continent," Lu Wancher said with admiration. "Body of fire spirit?" Jun Changshao murmured, "No wonder the exquisite fire in my body was a little restless just now." Lu Wancher said, "Also, Princess Red Lotus is a great beauty. It is said that she is ranked second on the ranking of peerless talents." Jun Changshao was speechless. If it was not the Gathering of Heroes list, then it was the ranking of peerless talents list. How free and boring would they have to be to come up with this? If they were so capable, they could come up with the entire Jade Tree overlooking the Wind Headmaster list. If I can't get first place, I'll kill myself immediately. The system was speechless. However, Jun Changshao rested his chin on his hand and said, "That woman is quite beautiful. If she can join my Iron Bone clan, it would be good." Princess Red Lotus was a fair, rich, and beautiful woman with a background, potential, and looks. Any normal man would think that if they could marry her, they would definitely reach the peak of their lives. Headmaster Jun actually wanted to take her in. It was really hopeless. "Beep, beep," Jun Changshao said, "Your eldest senior sister's potential is not inferior to hers. Why don't I see you admiring her so much?" "Ha!" Lu Wancher was stunned. She patted her little head and said, "Yes, eldest senior sister is also very powerful. Why didn't I think of it?" Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. It seemed that this little girl only thought that outsiders were outstanding and completely ignored the fact that her fellow disciples were actually more outstanding. The Heavenly Mandate Royal City was very big and very majestic. When Jun Changshao came to the city gate and saw the towering city walls, he opened his mouth. "Headmaster," Lu Wancher whispered, "everyone is looking at you." "Ah." Jun Changshao retracted his stunned expression, straightened his body, and said, let's go in." "Ah, ah, ah." At this moment, Lu Wancher screamed, "Headmaster, look, it's Princess Red Lotus, it's Princess Red Lotus." Jun Changshao shook his head secretly and said, "What a little fangirl." Chapter 502. At the city gate, Princess Red Lotus was leading a red horse and talking to the general of the city gate. Lu Wancher looked at her with admiration. She was indeed a fangirl. Jun Changshao shook his head and observed the woman carefully with his spiritual thoughts. He realized that she was outstanding in both appearance and temperament. Due to the strong spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the falling star continent was filled with beauties. Princess Red Lotus was definitely a rare beauty. Beep. Beep. Retracting his spiritual thoughts, Jun Changshao said, "Let's enter the city." Okay. Lu Wancher followed, her eyes still filled with admiration. After Princess Red Lotus talked to the general of the city gate, she looked over. Her eyes were like stars in the dark night. Sect Master. Lu Wancher sent a voice transmission. The princess is looking at you. Looking at me? Jun Changshao turned around and met Princess Red Lotus's eyes again. This time, they did not pass by each other. They looked at each other directly, so he smiled like a gentleman. Princess Red Lotus smiled faintly as she led her horse into the city. Wow! Lu Wancher exclaimed, "Sect Master, Princess Red Lotus smiled at you." Jun Changshao shrugged and said, "Isn't it normal to smile at such a handsome guy?" Ah! Lu Wancher grinned and whispered, "How shameless." The two of them continued into the city. However, they were stopped by the general of the city gate. They had to provide identification before they could enter. This was the procedure to enter the city. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Jun Changshao handed over his identification. On it was written that he was a resident of Azure Sun City in Azure Sun County. City Lord Xia had specially arranged for him. The general of the city gate took a look and said in surprise, "Jun Changshao? Is there a problem?" Jun Changshao asked. The general said, "Azure Sun County's Iron Bone Sect Master is also called Jun Changshao, right? Even the general of the city gate has heard of my name." Jun Changshao puffed out his chest and said proudly, "That's right, Jun is the leader of Iron Bone Upright Sect. This guy is Iron Bone Sect leader. The sect that defended Green Sun City and annihilated Jinyang County's 300,000-strong army. Not bad." Sect leader Jun became even more arrogant when he heard the surprised discussions of the passers-by. Everyone had vanity. Not only does our sect leader Jun have it, it's very strong. When he heard others talking about his great achievements, he immediately became complacent. Men! At this moment, the general shouted coldly, "Take him down." Shwa! 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 Sect leader Jun, who was feeling smug, was immediately surrounded by dozens of soldiers. All kinds of weapons were placed on his neck. Fuck! What was going on? Brat! The general said coldly, "You are the 18th person who has pretended to be the leader of the Iron Bone Sect in the past month." Impersonation? Jun Changshao broke down and said, "General, I am really the leader of the Iron Bone Sect. Every person who pretends to be the leader of the Iron Bone Sect." The general shouted, "Take them down and lock them in the dungeon." Wait! Jun Changshao said, "I have the sect seal. It can prove my identity." The general laughed coldly and said, "You can go and have a good discussion with the group of sect leaders who are locked up." And so, our sect leader Jun was taken away by the neck by a group of soldiers. This made Lu Wancher very anxious. She shouted from behind, "Sect leader! Sect leader! This girl must be an accomplice. Take her away too." Creak! The door of the dungeon closed. Sect leader Jun and Lu Wancher stood in a cell surrounded by iron walls on three sides. Ahaha! The system's gloating laughter could be heard. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. In the past, when he said that he was the leader of the Iron Bone Sect, he was looked down upon. Now that he said that he was the leader of the Iron Bone Sect, he was thought to be a fake. The system said, "Host can break out of prison. Break out your sister." Jun Changshao clearly remembered that the first sect leader was beheaded because he broke out of prison. Of course, with his strength, breaking out of prison was easy. However, he was the leader of the Iron Bone Sect. Once he broke out of prison, he would not be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Friend. At this moment, a cellmate walked over and smiled, "How did you get in? Is there even a need to ask?" Another cellmate said, "To be able to enter this cell, You must be pretending to be Jun Changshao. Pretending my ass. The cellmate squatting at the side said, I am the leader of the Iron Bone Sect. In the small cell, there were 17 people. This made Sect leader Jun suddenly remember that the general had said that he was the 18th imposter. His mouth twitched, you are all Jun Changshao. Nonsense. A cellmate said, if you are not Jun Changshao, how can you be locked in here? At that moment, Sect leader Jun almost took out his green dragon crescent blade and cut these people who had impersonated him and caused him to be imprisoned into pieces. Calm down, calm down. Jun Changshao suppressed his urge to kill and carefully examined these imposters. As a result, he almost vomited blood. They were all a bunch of repulsive people. They actually dared to pretend to be the wise and mighty me. The most unbearable thing was that there was actually a bald old man in his 60s or 70s among them. Oh please. Imposters should at least be more professional. Little girl. Jun Changshao walked over and said with a smile, the leader of the Iron Bone Sect is a man. Why did a girl like you appear? Lu Wancher said, I am a disciple of the Iron Bone Sect. Everyone was stunned. Then, they looked at Jun Changshao and gave him a thumbs up, saying, you even brought a disciple. You impersonated a friend well. Impersonation my ass. Impersonation my ass. I am really Jun Changshao. I am really the leader of the Iron Bone Sect. Sigh. A cellmate shook his head and said, we were one step too late. The first imposter succeeded. Otherwise, why would we be locked in here? Damn. The person next to him said angrily, they acted so quickly. These words made Jun Changshao realize that since all 18 of them, including himself, were imposters, there must be a real one who had already entered the heavenly mandate Imperial City. Damn it. I just made a name for myself in the other world, and someone impersonated me and put me in jail. I will definitely torture them to death once I catch them. The system said, the host should think about how to get out. Creak. Suddenly, the door of the room was opened. A fat prison guard stood at the door and said calmly, Sect leader Jun, follow me. Jun Changshao and a group of imposters were brought to the interrogation room. The observant general of the city stood proudly. Sitting in front of the interrogation table was Princess Red Lotus, who had just entered the Imperial City. She put her hands on the table and clasped her fingers. She smiled and said, are you all Jun Changshao, the leader of the Iron Bone Sect? Her voice was clear and disturbing. That's right. Before Jun Changshao could speak, the imposters spoke. You imposters, where did you get the courage to say that you are the leader of the Iron Bone Sect? Princess Red Lotus said, as far as I know, the leader of the Iron Bone Sect is not more than 20 years old. Does your age match? Jun is only 17 or 18 years old. It's just that he is growing a little fast, the bald old man said. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Old man, you are not growing fast. You are growing faster than the speed of sound. Princess Red Lotus said, Sect leader Jun is a fire elemental armament. Do you have it? Ha! This woman knew him well. It seemed that he could only show the exquisite fire to prove his identity. Whoosh whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the impostor standing at the side raised his hand. A cluster of scorching flames erupted. He said proudly, can this prove my identity? Jun Changshao opened his mouth. Damn, this guy was also a fire elemental armament. Chapter 503. Fire elemental martial cultivators were not rare in the Falling Star continent, so it was normal for an impostor to show it off. Furthermore, it was easier to impersonate someone professionally. Only a fool would think that the bald old man was the sect master of Iron Bone. Princess. The general whispered, this person is a fire elemental martial cultivator and is about the same age. It might be real. Princess Red Lotus said, would Sect Master Jun of the Sword and Martial Kings have such a low flame? The general fell silent. Jun Changshao had been releasing his spiritual senses the entire time. When he heard their conversation, he thought to himself, she actually knows that I'm the Sword and Martial Kings. The system said, it's normal for the host to have a breakthrough in Azure Sun City. That's true. Jun Changshao felt relieved. Names could be impersonated, flames could be impersonated. However, who in this world could impersonate his cultivation of the Sword and Martial Kings? If he wanted to prove himself, it wouldn't take too long. Princess Red Lotus said, Iron Bone has many special martial techniques. Since you are Sect Master Jun, you should be able to use them, right? Everyone fell silent. Actually, before they entered the interrogation room, some of the imposters were already feeling guilty. Jun Changshao said, Princess, what martial technique would you like to see? Princess Red Lotus said, on Spirit Spring Mountain, the Iron Bone Sect's disciple, Li Qingyang, once used a special spiritual energy-type martial technique to defeat an inner sect disciple of the Sacred Spring Sect. Would it be possible for you to use it? Jun Changshao said, you remember clearly where and who used it. Princess, you really know Iron Bone like the back of your hand. Princess Red Lotus flicked her hair and said with a smile, a nameless sect suddenly rose to prominence in Azure Sun County. Of course, I have to understand it. The two of them looked at each other. After a while, Jun Changshao retracted his gaze and said, this place is small. It's not suitable to use martial techniques. Princess Red Lotus said, General Song, take these 17 people away and continue to lock them up. Yes. The general escorted the 17 imposters away. Sect Master Jun, Princess Red Lotus said with a smile, my subordinate is only doing his job. If he has offended you, please forgive him. You think I'm real? Jun Changshao asked. Princess Red Lotus said, actually, from the moment Sect Master Jun came in, I knew that you were real. Not just anyone can impersonate the aura of two kings. Since that was the case, why did he need to interrogate him? Could it be that he had nothing better to do? Or was he testing him? Instantly, Jun Changshao became vigilant and inwardly said, I'm afraid that this woman isn't simple. Lu Wancher looked at Princess Red Lotus in excitement. She nearly took out a notebook to ask for her autograph. Jun Changshao did not expect that the way he entered the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City was not through the main gate, but directly from the prison, accompanied by the princess of the city. Sect Master Jun, Princess Red Lotus said, I heard that you are a martial arts master. You have also guided many sects on Mount Hua. This woman knew him like the back of her hand. The more she knew, the more cautious Jun Changshao became. He said, it's just a coincidence. Princess Red Lotus stopped and smiled. I'm going back to the academy. If Sect Master Jun has time, you can come to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Many of our juniors have admired you for a long time. Is that so? Jun Changshao was immediately tempted. Of course, he was not going for a tour. He was thinking, why not recruit disciples in the academy? The Heavenly Mandate Academy was not a powerful organization. The students who cultivated there were also not sections. Recruiting disciples was not considered poaching. Princess. Jun Changshao said, are you interested in joining the Iron Bone Academy? How direct and straightforward. Lu Wancher, who was standing to the side, opened her mouth. If her idol joined the Iron Bone Academy and became her fellow disciple, she would be very excited just thinking about it. Of course. Just thinking about it. The little girl also knew that Princess Red Lotus was of noble status. How could she join a sect? Sect Master Jun, are you recruiting me? Princess Red Lotus smiled. Jun Changshao said, the Iron Bone Academy needs a proud woman like you to create a dream together. Princess Red Lotus said, before Sect Master Jun, there were already many sects that wanted to recruit me. There was no lack of first and second-rate sects among them. Although the first and second-rate sects are strong, their potential is limited. Jun Chang said with a smile, for a heroine like the princess, only by joining my Iron Bone faction can she blossom with dazzling brilliance. The system was speechless. When it came to recruiting disciples, he was really good at bullshitting. He had to bullshit. How could he recruit a genius with extraordinary potential just by relying on his strength? Princess Red Lotus said, "I'll think about it." She did not refuse, nor did she agree. Jun Changshao said, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Princess, you must seriously consider it." Princess Red Lotus smiled and said, "Sect Master Jun, I'll take my leave first." With that, she turned and left. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin as he looked at that valiant figure from behind. He said, "If we take in the Princess of Royal City as our disciple, then even if Shenyang County has 10 times the courage, they won't dare to act rashly." No wonder he was so eager to recruit her. He had taken a fancy to her status. Sect Master. Lu Wancher said, "Will Princess Red Lotus join the sect?" "Yes." Jun Changshao said firmly. Not only Princess Red Lotus, but he also wanted to recruit students from the Heavenly Mandate Academy. How could he return empty-handed from this trip to the Imperial City? The Heavenly Mandate Imperial City was really big. Even the Western District was far from what Xingyang City could compare to. Jun Changshao admired the row upon row of buildings while looking for an inn with Lu Wancher. About an hour later, they chose an incomparable to a 5-star hotel. The room was comparable to a presidential suite. Rich and willful. Wow! Entering the room, Lu Wancher said in surprise, "This house is so big." "Don't be amazed." Jun Changshao reminded her, "The culinary competition will begin in 5 days. Quickly study the recipes." "Yes, yes." The little girl sat on a soft chair and took out a Chinese recipe to read. Jun Changshao stood in front of the window by the street and looked at the endless stream of people below. He murmured, "There must be many hidden talents in the Imperial City." In the Eastern District of the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City, the famous Heavenly Mandate Academy was located here. On the huge field, countless geniuses were cultivating. On top of a tall building, an old man in a long robe stood. He had a head full of white hair and looked very sage-like. "Dean." A middle-aged man walked over and said, "The leader of the Iron Bone clan has come to the Imperial City." "I know," the old man replied. Although his voice was old, it had a powerful aura. His cultivation must be extraordinary. The middle-aged man said, "In a short time, this Iron Bone clan has developed from a second-rate sect to a sixth-rate sect. This Iron Bone clan really has potential." The old man said, "It is hard to say whether the Iron Bone clan has potential, but Jun Changshao can become the king of sword and martial arts. He will have great achievements in the future." "That is true," the middle-aged man agreed. "Moreover," the old man said, "this boy has a very deep understanding of martial arts. If we can persuade him to give up the sect and become a teacher of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, he will have students all over the world in the future. This boy is arrogant and has caused a lot of trouble. I am afraid he is not suitable to be a teacher," the middle-aged man said. The old man was silent for a while and ordered, "In the name of the academy, invite him here." "Yes." The middle-aged man left. It was not only the Heavenly Mandate Academy that was thinking about Master Jun. There was also the Yangzhou Certification Academy in the southwest. At this moment, the head of the academy, Yi Tianjian, had also received the news that Jun Changshao had entered the Imperial City. He was discussing this matter with several elders. He had just entered the largest city in the southwest of Yangzhou, and 2 non-forces were very concerned about Jun Changshao. This was enough to make others envious and jealous. Chapter 504. Headmaster Jun. In the guest room, the middle-aged man cupped his hands and said, "Are you free to go to the Heavenly Mandate Academy?" Jun Changshao was a little confused. He had just checked in, and the people of the Heavenly Mandate Academy came to him. What was going on? "Tomorrow," Jun Changshao said. After traveling for so many days, he was also a little tired and wanted to have a good night's rest. The middle-aged man said, "In that case, I will take my leave." After leaving the room, He shook his head and said, "Many people feel honored to be invited by the academy, but he insisted on waiting until tomorrow." As soon as the people of the Heavenly Mandate Academy left, Elder Zhou of the certification headquarters came. "Headmaster Jun," he cupped his hands and smiled. "Are you free to go to the certification headquarters?" The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. Were these people's eyes always on him? As soon as he stepped into the Imperial City, they were all here. "Elder Zhou," Jun Changxiao said, "tomorrow." "That's good too." Elder Zhou did not want to disturb him and left. Damn! Isn't that Elder Zhou? Why did he come out of that high-end guest room? Is there a big shot living in there? First, the Heavenly Mandate Academy, and then the certification headquarters came to visit the same guest room. This made the martial arts cultivators in the inn talk about it. Shopkeeper Tian. A warrior walked to the counter and said, "Who lives on the second floor?" The shopkeeper said, "No comment." The owner of the inn would naturally keep the identity of the guests a secret. The more this was so, the more curious the warriors were. Who lived in the guest room? The next day, Jun Changxiao walked out in high spirits. However, as soon as he opened the door and stood in the corridor, countless eyes fell on him. He looks very unfamiliar. He seems to be a young junior. How could he alarm the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the certification headquarters? Everyone whispered, and their eyes were filled with disappointment. Jun Changxiao ignored them and knocked on Lu Wancher's room. He said, "Girl, let's go out for dinner." Okay. After Lu Wancher washed up, she followed the headmaster down to the second floor. The two of them casually ate something in the cafeteria on the first floor and then left the inn. Lu Wancher learned a few dishes yesterday, but she didn't have the ingredients, so she had to go to the grocery store to buy them. Jun Changxiao also wanted to take a look at the martial arts market in the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City, so he followed along. The martial arts market in Monarch City was huge. Medicine stores, elixir stores, weapon stores, crystal core stores, and other stores related to martial arts were numerous. On the streets, there were also many armament cultivators who were purchasing all kinds of resources. After walking for a while, Jun Changxiao saw many high-ranked Wuzong. There were even martial kings among them. As expected of the capital, experts were as common as clouds. Lu Wancher entered a sundry goods store while Jun Changxiao strolled around casually. The medicinal herbs and seeds here should be pretty good. With this in mind, he entered a medicinal herb shop. Indeed. The medicinal herb shops in the capital city were much better than the AI clan in terms of medicinal herb variety and quality. Jun Changxiao needed a large amount of materials to refine middle-grade qi gathering pills, so no matter if it was herbs or seeds, as long as they were available, he would take them all. In the end, he had spent nearly 10 million. So expensive. Jun Changxiao took out banknotes to pay, and suddenly the customers who were choosing medicinal herbs were stunned. Spending so much money to buy some ordinary medicinal herbs and seeds, is there something wrong with his brain? Maybe it's a rich second generation from another city who came to show off his wealth. While the crowd was discussing, Jun Changxiao had already left the medicinal herb shop. You all think that there's something wrong with my brain or that I'm showing off my wealth, but you don't know that it's absolutely difficult to refine qi gathering pills. Right. Jun Changxiao murmured, if I open a beast material store in Monarch City, there should be more profits, right? The system said, buying feed in Monarch City, host, don't you find it embarrassing? As long as there's money to be made, it's not embarrassing even if I sell feces. Jun Changxiao said. The system said. Someone is fighting in the sundry goods store. Suddenly, a armament cultivator shouted at the top of his voice. Daring to fight in the market, isn't this courting death? Let's go. Let's go take a look. Sect leader Jun frowned because Dudu was also in the sundry goods store. Sundry goods store. At this moment, many materials were scattered on the ground, and the shopkeeper was so scared that he hid under the counter. A young man in embroidered clothes fell on the ground while holding his stomach. His face was slightly ferocious, and it seemed that he was injured. Who hit him? Lu Wancher. At this moment, she clenched her fists, and her eyes were filled with anger. Lu Wancher usually had a cheerful look, and she was rarely so angry. Bastard! A few youths hurriedly helped him up, and one of them said angrily, "You actually dared to attack and injure sixth cousin brother." Lu Wancher gritted her teeth and said, "If you call me bastard again, do you believe that I won't beat you up too?" The little loli's angry look was quite scary. "Humph." That person said coldly, "No wonder you dared to come back, so you've been cultivating outside. But no matter how high your cultivation is, you're still a bastard." This guy's words were very unpleasant. Lu Wancher really couldn't take it anymore, and she clenched her fists and walked over. Although the youth was afraid, he forced himself to be calm and said, "If you dare to attack in Monarch City again, even fourth uncle can't save you." Pa! Suddenly, a hand landed on his shoulder. The youth was stunned, and he turned around to look. Unknowingly, a young man of similar age to him was standing behind him. Sect Master. Lu Wancher couldn't stop her tears from flowing. Jun Changshao saw it, and his heart ached. He said in a deep voice, "They are from the Ouyang clan." "That's right." The youth raised his eyebrows and said. Jun Changshao directly pressed him to the ground, and he raised his leg and started to stomp on his back. Bang! 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 The martial artists gathered outside the miscellaneous goods store opened their eyes wide. In just a moment, the Ouyang clan direct descendant who called Lu Wancher a bastard was stomped until he was foaming at the mouth, and he fainted. The other two direct descendants were so scared that their faces turned pale. They didn't care about their injured comrade, and they hurriedly ran away. Swoosh! Swoosh! Sect Master Jun reached out and grabbed the two of them. He didn't care if they bullied Lu Wancher or not, he directly pressed them to the ground and started to trample on them again. Stop! At this moment, a shout came from outside the miscellaneous goods store. It's the patrol envoy. Fighting in Monarch City is definitely a serious crime. He's beating up a direct descendant of the Ouyang clan. The crowd hurriedly made way for a middle-aged man in armor and more than 20 soldiers to surround the miscellaneous goods store. Bang! Bang! Jun Changshao was still kicking him, one kick at a time. Seeing this, the patrol envoy frowned. He then entered the miscellaneous goods store and shouted, "Fighting in the city without permission is against the law. Stop right now, or else," bang. Before he could finish, he was sent flying out of the store. The passers-by were all stunned. That guy even dared to beat up the patrol envoy. Is he tired of living? Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, two martial artists landed in front of the miscellaneous goods store from afar. Their auras were strong, and they were both martial kings. The white-haired old man said in a deep voice, "You ignorant brat, how dare you hurt a direct descendant of the Ouyang clan?" Jun Changshao stopped his violence and dragged out the two men who had been beaten to the point of looking like dead dogs. He said indifferently, "This king will not only beat up your family's direct descendants, but also beat up you two old men." Arrogant! The two martial kings shouted coldly. Patrol envoy. The white-haired old man said, "This kid hurt a direct descendant of the Ouyang clan. Can I retaliate?" The patrol envoy struggled to stand up and said while holding his chest, "Yes." Kid! The white-haired old man's martial king aura burst out and said coldly, "I will discipline you on behalf of your parents." Just as he was about to attack, an extremely cold aura filled the air. Not good. The white-haired martial artist's face changed and he couldn't move at all. Jun Changshao walked over and said with a cold look in his eyes, "You don't have the qualifications to discipline me." Chapter 505. Sect leader Jun directly suppressed a martial king of the Ouyang family with his domineering sword momentum and walked in front of him. Slap! A slap was delivered, and a crisp sound was heard. Everyone's eyes widened. Why didn't the martial king of the Ouyang family dodge? Why was he slapped in the face by a young man? The sword momentum suppressed him like Wu Huang's qi domain. The white-haired old man's left cheek was swollen, but his heart was filled with shock. Slap! Sect leader Jun slapped him again and said, "The direct descendant humiliated my disciple. This is the Ouyang family's failure to discipline him." Everyone's mouth twitched. A martial king being slapped in the face in front of so many people was simply unimaginable. This was not a slap in the face. This was trampling on the dignity of the Ouyang family. Whoosh whoosh. Just then, another martial king strode over, his aura whistling through the air. Boom! Jun Changshao turned around and used the landslide fist, directly meeting the Ouyang family's strong cultivator head-on. Whoosh whoosh! The power exploded, and a gust of wind rose. The martial cultivators close to the military salute were so shocked that they retreated. Thump thump thump. The martial king of the Ouyang family also staggered back. In the end, he fell to the ground on his butt, his eyes full of disbelief. This man's strength was strong, and he was definitely a high-grade martial king. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, two more figures flew over, and the aura they emitted was also that of a martial king. Gold and silver guardians. The warriors exclaimed. The two warriors who landed outside the grocery store were about 40 or 50 years old. Their eyes shone with a sharp light, as if they were generals who had experienced hundreds of battles. They were the two guardians of the heavenly mandate royal city, and they were responsible for the security of the city. What's going on? Guardian Jean asked in a deep voice. The patrol envoy pointed at Jun Changshao and said, "Lord Guardian, this man openly beat up a direct descendant of the Ouyang family in the city, and he even injured me." Oh? Guardian Jean said in surprise, "That's a bit rare. It wasn't that there were no troublemakers in the royal city. But to beat up a direct descendant of the Ouyang family and a patrol envoy, it was a mess." Boy! Enforcer Silver laughed strangely and said, "You sure have guts." Protector Jean said, "There are clear rules in the royal city that no one is allowed to attack without permission. Not only did you hit someone, but you also injured the patrol envoy. That's an additional crime. I don't care about the rules." Jun Changshao once again slapped the Ouyang clan's martial king's face and coldly said, "Humiliating my sect's disciple, even the heavenly emperor will have to pay the price." Facing so many martial kings, how arrogant. Sect leader Jun was amazing. Protector Jin's face gradually darkened. Tsk tisk. Protector Silver said, "This old man hasn't seen such an arrogant little fellow in a long time." Protectors. Another Ouyang clan martial king clenched his teeth and said, "This kid is acting recklessly in the city. Please seek justice for our Ouyang clan." He knew that this young man was powerful and that he was no match for him. He could only rely on the two protectors. After all, one of them was at the 9th rank and the other was at the 8th rank. Brat! Protector Yin grinned and said, "Let this old man spar with you." Whoosh! As he spoke, the aura of an 8th rank martial king burst out, forming a powerful aura that pressed over. Jun Changshao sneered. His sword aura split and instantly rushed forward, clashing with his opponent's aura. Boom thump. Thump. Protector Silver took a few steps back and said in surprise, "What a powerful sword will. You are a sword king." What? Everyone's eyes widened. Martial kings could be seen in the royal city, but sword kings were very rare. At that moment, the passers-by finally understood why this kid dared to arrogantly make a move in the royal city and even dared to hit a patrol envoy. A sword cultivator was already very amazing. The king of swordsmanship would only have an even higher status. Back then, a sword king had once come to the heavenly mandate royal city. The city lord had personally received him and treated him as a distinguished guest. Protector Jean said cautiously, "May I know your name?" The king of swordsmanship was definitely not an ordinary person. Jun Changshao from the Iron Bone clan. Not only did Jun Changshao report his name, But he also reported his sect. Because the sword momentum was still being released, even the words he spoke revealed an extremely sharp aura. The Iron Bone Clan. Jun Changshao. Protector Jin's expression changed again and again. He said, "So you are the clan leader of the Iron Bone Clan." The clan leader of the Iron Bone Clan? The surrounding warriors suddenly remembered the clan that had been widely spread in the Jianghu recently, and their faces were all filled with surprise. No. Someone was puzzled and said, "I have seen the clan leader of the Iron Bone Clan. He shouldn't look like this." Yes, I saw him in the southern district yesterday. Could it be that he changed his appearance? Many warriors whispered to each other. Jun Changshao frowned and said to himself, could it be that he is an impostor who entered the city first? Very good, very good. Since he was in the city, he had to torture him to death. The system said, at this time, the host should consider how to escape. Simple. Jun Changshao said, make a big deal out of it. Make a big deal out of it? Bang! Jun Changshao punched the abdomen of the Ouyang clan's martial king who was restrained by the sword and said coldly, today, I will take care of the Ouyang clan's old man and seek justice for my disciple. Whoever dares to stop me will end up like him. Protector Jin's face was ashen and he said, Clan leader Jun, don't go too far. He was not biased towards the Ouyang clan, but it was his duty to protect the law and order of the city. Bang! Jun Changshao punched the chest of the Ouyang clan's martial king again, making him look ferocious. He said, am I going too far? Everyone's mouth twitched. Hitting the Ouyang clan's martial king in front of two protectors, was he not going too far? Protector Jin said in a deep voice, clans have their own rules, and countries have their own rules. Even if clan leader Jun is the king of the sword, he must abide by them. Ta! He took a step forward and a complicated fist shadow was immediately displayed. He could not bear it anymore. He had to take down this arrogant junior and tell everyone that the laws of the royal city were not to be violated. Whoosh whoosh. A 9th grade martial king displayed a powerful fist technique, forming a terrifying aura. The passers-by closest to him were so shocked that they retreated one after another. Your royal city has rules, and so does my iron bone. Jun Changshao took a big step forward and displayed the landslide and earth-shattering fist. In an instant, all the fist shadows were destroyed. He said proudly, those who offend my iron bone will have to pay the price. Whoosh whoosh. Protector Jin attacked again. Whoosh whoosh. Clan leader Jun did not show any weakness. He poured violent power into his fists and punched back. For a moment, the spiritual energy in the marketplace exploded with great momentum. Heavenly Mandate Academy. The old man standing on the building felt the fluctuation of spiritual energy and frowned. He said, why is this kid fighting with Protector Jin? The middle-aged man who went to invite Jun Changshao shook his head and said, Dean, I have said before that this kid is a troublemaker. It is not a wise move to let him teach at the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The old man said, this trouble is not small. You go and mediate. All right. The middle-aged man turned and left. Headquarters of the Certification Academy. The corner of Yi Tianjian's mouth twitched. He just came to the royal city and he is already fighting with Protector Jin. What is going on? Elder Zhou was speechless. It might alarm the city lord. Elder Zhou. Yi Tianjian said, go and mediate the fight. Yes. Jun Changshao had just gotten into trouble, and the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Certification Academy had sent people to clean up his mess. Chapter 506. Boom. Boom. In the market, powerful explosions sounded frequently. Boundless spiritual energy wreaked havoc, shaking the surrounding buildings. The buildings in the royal city were indeed powerful. To be able to withstand the attack of a martial king, he was still able to hold his ground. If it were Qingyang City, a large part of it would have collapsed long ago. In front of the grocery store, Jun Changshao and Protector Jean were fighting fiercely, and it was difficult to tell who had the upper hand. The two of them didn't want to affect the surrounding buildings, so they tacitly chose to fight hand to hand. The cultivators who were hiding far away were extremely excited. It was an honor to be able to witness the battle between martial kings and sword kings in the strict royal city. Ta! 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 A large number of royal city soldiers rushed over and surrounded the martial arts market. At the same time, the other martial king-level protectors of the public order hall also rushed over at their fastest speed and locked onto Jun Changshao. Things were getting out of hand. Judging from the current situation, Sect leader Jun was in a very bad situation. This was really a good way to die. Or perhaps, a protagonist who didn't court death wasn't a good author. Boom! At this moment, the two of them punched each other again. Neither of them had the upper hand and they both retreated a few steps. Protector Jin's expression was extremely ugly. Although this brat was a sword king, he was still a low-grade martial king. He, a 9th-grade martial king, was actually unable to do anything to him. However, he didn't know that Sect leader Jun hadn't used his full strength from the beginning. Otherwise, if the martial king and sword king were to use their full cultivation, they would definitely be defeated. Ha! Looking at the surrounding soldiers and the 4 martial kings who appeared, Jun Changshao said indifferently, "What a big lineup." The martial cultivators admired him. The 6 martial kings of the royal city public order hall were all out, yet he could still remain so calm. As expected of a man who dared to fight against a 6th-grade Jinyang County. However, this wasn't Jinyang County, but the royal city. If a sect leader dared to fight against the public order hall, it was equivalent to fighting against the city lord. There was no denying it. The Iron Bones sect leader had been very famous recently. However, if he dared to cause trouble in the royal city, he would definitely be tired of living. The Ouyang family martial king sneered and thought, "Brat, no one in the world can save you." Sect leader Jun, Protector Jean said in a deep voice, "Surrender." After exchanging blows, he had already realized that this kid's strength was extremely strong, and it was impossible for him to take him down alone. Jun Changshao said indifferently, "Only defeat, never admit defeat." His attitude was also very unyielding. "Take me down. Come at me with your strength." Protector Jin's gaze was cold as he said, "Protector Yin, let's join forces and quickly capture this child." "All right." Protector Silver strode forward. Wu Huang's aura completely erupted. Wang! A cold sword appeared in the void. Jun Changshao gripped the hilt of his sword and suddenly pulled it out. His gaze was cold as he said, "Since you want to fight me with numbers, then don't let this seat be merciless." Whoosh whoosh, in an instant, scorching flames erupted from the sword. What a powerful flame! Guardian Jean and Guardian Yin's expressions changed slightly. They knew that the Iron Bones sect leader was a fire martial cultivator, but they didn't expect his comprehension to be so pure. They're using their weapons. I'm afraid there will be bloodshed today. The Iron Bones sect leader is really reckless. Everyone discussed in low voices. Fighting in the city was already a serious crime. If he were to use his weapon, it would definitely be an additional crime. Jun Changshao. Protector Jean said in a deep voice, "You're walking step by step into the abyss." If it was just a fight, there was still room for negotiation. However, once weapons were used in a fight, it was absolutely unforgivable. Jun Changshao's eyes were filled with fighting spirit as he said, "Come on. Protector Yin." Protector Jin's gaze was cold as he said, "Since this kid is so contemptuous of the monarch city's laws, we'll kill him here today." "All right." Protector Yin agreed. Such an arrogant junior made the two of them want to kill him. Whoosh whoosh. The aura of a martial king erupted wildly, and killing intent filled the sky above the martial arts market. Just as Protector Jean and Protector Yin were about to attack, a shout came from afar. "Stop!" Everyone looked over and saw Princess Red Lotus flying over. "Greetings, Princess." Protector Jean and the rest, as well as many soldiers, bowed. Princess Red Lotus looked at Jun Changshao and said, "Sect leader Jun, please put away your sword first. We can talk things over." Clang! She sheathed her sword. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, "I'll give the princess some face." Everyone was a little dizzy. Did the noble princess care about your face that much? Princess. Protector Jean said, "This kid attacked in the monarch city and violated the laws. His crime is unforgivable, I understand." Princess Red Lotus interrupted. She looked at Jun Changshao and shook her head. "Sect leader Jun, this is the heavenly mandate monarch city, not the Iron Bones sect. It's too reckless of you to attack so recklessly." "If I had been reckless, Protector Jean would have become a soul under my sword," Jun Changshao said. He was not pretending. He really had the strength. With sect leader Jun's current cultivation, even a peak martial king might not be a threat. Princess Red Lotus said, "Sect leader Jun's strength is admirable. However, you should not attack in the monarch city. Please give up resisting and go to the dungeon." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. He just came out and went back in. The frequency of him being in the dungeon was too frequent. The system mocked, "With the trouble you've caused today, you should be content if you're just locked up in the dungeon." "Princess." Protector Jean said angrily, "This kid has no respect for the law. He can't escape death. He can't escape death." The soldiers of the Public Security Department shouted in unison. Judging from the situation, if sect leader Jun did not give a perfect explanation today, it would be difficult for him to escape unscathed. "Protectors." Princess Red Lotus said, "Leave this matter to me." This, Protector Jean and Protector Een looked at each other. The two of them had always been in charge of public security matters. Why was the princess interfering today? "Princess." Protector Een said awkwardly, "This is a serious matter. We have to ask the city lord." "Why?" Princess Red Lotus frowned and said unhappily, "I don't even have that right." "Yes, you do." The two protectors hurriedly said. The princess was the apple of the city lord's eye. They did not dare to offend her. Princess Red Lotus said, "Sect leader Jun knows the location of the dungeon. Please go there yourself." Jun Changshao spread his hands and turned to leave. He had beaten up the Ouyang family and helped his disciple vent her anger. Since the princess had given him a way out, he had to do it. "Princess." At that moment, the martial king of the Ouyang family said, "This kid hurt my Ouyang family. Please give us justice." "Justice?" Jun Changshao turned back and said coldly, "You said that my Iron Bone disciple is a bastard. I will go to your Ouyang family to seek justice." The martial king of the Ouyang family sneered. "Kid! How can you seek justice in your current situation?" Sect leader Jun, Princess Red Lotus said, "Let's go." "Wait." At this moment, Elder Zhou from the certification center flew over anxiously and said, "Princess, there must be some misunderstanding. It's Elder Zhou of the Certification Academy. Why is he here?" While everyone was discussing, a middle-aged man also rushed over and said, "Red Lotus, Sect leader Jun is an important guest of the academy. You must not neglect him." Gah! The entire place was silent. First, the people of the Certification Academy said it was a misunderstanding. Then, the people of the Heavenly Mandate Academy said it was an important guest. What was going on? Chapter 507. The appearance of the Certification Center and the Heavenly Mandate Academy one after another stunned the martial cultivators who were watching the show. After a while, the smart martial cultivators immediately realized that they were here to help the Iron Bone sect leader out of his predicament. How could a sect leader alert two large organizations at the same time? The Certification Center was responsible for the certification of sects and had a very high prestige. The Heavenly Mandate Academy had nurtured many strong martial cultivators, so its status in southwest Yangzhou was needless to say. If these two organizations really wanted to help Jun Changshao out of his predicament, even the city lord would have to consider it carefully. Honored guest? Princess Red Lotus was surprised. Sect leader Jun stood with his hands behind his back, his face full of pride. He had a mental breakdown. If you were 2 steps slower, I would have to enter the palace a second time. He had expected that the Certification Center and the Heavenly Mandate Academy would come to help him. After all, they had warmly invited him yesterday. Based on this alone, Sect leader Jun dared to bully the direct descendant of the Ouyang family and King Wu. Then, he deliberately made a big deal out of it to attract the attention of the two organizations and let them know that he was in trouble now. The system said, "Host, aren't you worried that they didn't get the news?" "They won't." Jun Changshao said, "They knew as soon as I entered the city. They must be paying attention to my every move." The system was silent. This guy was thinking too much. If he dared to court death without thinking too much, he would definitely end up dead. Everything was under Jun Changshao's control, but he didn't expect that Princess Red Lotus would come first. Could it be that she is tempted and has plans to join the Iron Bone sect, so she came to give herself a way out? Sect leader Jun secretly guessed. Vice Dean. Princess Red Lotus said, "Sect leader Jun beat up the direct descendant of the Ouyang family. They need an explanation." "Is that so?" The Vice Dean looked at King Wu. Elder Zhou also looked over. When the two of them looked at each other, King Wu was on the verge of collapse. The power of these two organizations was beyond imagination. They were existences that his family absolutely could not afford to offend. "Brother Ouyang," Elder Zhou said, "it's not a big deal. Why are you so calculative? How is it not a big deal that his direct descendant and elder were beaten up?" King Wu's expression was extremely ugly. Although he was very unhappy and aggrieved, he didn't dare to express it. "How about this?" The vice principal of the academy tried to mediate the situation. "Just let sect leader Jun pay for the medical expenses. Let's turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing." The corners of many martial artists' mouths twitched. This was not a matter of money. This was a matter of dignity. Speaking of which, the Iron Bone sect leader was also quite impressive. The two large organizations had actually helped him out of his predicament. Ouyang clan's martial king realized that he and his direct descendants would have to suffer in silence, so he said, "This matter has to be handed over to the Public Security Hall to handle. Our Ouyang clan will accept whatever judgment they give." So many people were watching. Of course, he couldn't directly admit that he was unlucky. He could only push the problem to the Public Security Department. "Protector Jean." Elder Zhou asked, "What do you think?" Protector Jean was immediately put in a difficult position. He broke down in his heart and said, "You don't say anything about your family's matter. What do you mean by pushing it to the Public Security Hall?" Princess Red Lotus said, "Sect Master Jun and a direct descendant of the Ouyang family had a quarrel. It's not a big deal." Protector Jean understood and hurriedly said, "Just pretend that it didn't happen." "Disperse, all of you," Protector Silver said. Step. 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 The thousands of soldiers surrounding the marketplace retreated. Several martial kings from the Public Security Hall also left one after another. "In that case," Ouyang clan's martial king cupped his hands and said, "Then we will also take our leave." He was furious. However, the certification headquarters and the Heavenly Mandate Academy were biased. He could only swallow his bitterness. "Wait a minute." At this moment, Jun Changshao said, "Go back and tell the Ouyang clan leader that I will visit the Ouyang clan when I have time." He couldn't just let the matter of bullying a disciple of the Iron Bone sect go. Many people thought that Jun Changshao had gone too far. They didn't know that the cause of all this was the direct descendant of the Ouyang clan humiliating Lu Wancher. In particular, when he saw his disciple crying and calling for him, the grievance in her eyes made him furious. When he made his move, Jun Changshao didn't think about anything. He just wanted to give the direct descendant of the Ouyang clan a good beating. No one could stop him. This was the Iron Bones sect leader. Even if he was in the royal city and there were many rules and restrictions, as long as his disciple was humiliated, he had to pay it back double. Because of the intervention of the certification headquarters and the Heavenly Mandate Academy, the conflict was reduced to a small matter. The assailant was still at large. He didn't even pay for the medical expenses. He beat up someone in the royal city, and he even beat up a patrol envoy. The Iron Bones sect leader is definitely the first person to come out unscathed. He has the support of 2 major organizations. If I had such connections, I would definitely be able to do whatever I wanted in the royal city. Then again, sect leader Jun is also quite powerful. He could even get the certification headquarters and the Heavenly Mandate Academy to come out and help. The warriors were still discussing what had just happened. They also had a new understanding of the Iron Bones sect leader. As for the person involved, Jun Changshao, he followed the deputy dean to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Lu Wancher also followed, but her brows were still slightly furrowed. Sect leader. After a while, she transmitted her voice, "I'm sorry." "Why are you sorry?" Jun Changshao didn't understand. Lu Wancher blamed herself and said, "I shouldn't have acted impulsively. I almost got you into jail again." "Silly girl." Jun Changshao said, "I was bullied. As the sect leader, if I can't uphold justice, then what qualifications do I have to be the sect leader?" Sect leader, Lu Wancher was deeply moved, and her tears flowed down unconsciously. Back then, she was saved by the sect leader in Qingyang City. Joining the Iron Bones sect was just to find a place to stay. Now it seemed that this was the best choice in her life. "You won't look good if you keep crying," Jun Changshao said. Lu Wancher wiped away her tears and said firmly, "I am willing to cook for the sect leader for the rest of my life." "Of course." Jun Changshao said, "You've spoiled their food. If it were another chef, your senior brothers and sisters would definitely go on a hunger strike." Ugh. The little girl was amused. The previous sadness and self-blame also faded a lot. "Mother." Lu Wancher secretly said in her heart, "Dudu is very happy to have met such a sect leader." Princess Red Lotus, who was traveling with them, had been paying attention to Jun Changshao. Did he know that someone would come to help him, so he dared to act so recklessly in Royal City? This man. Princess Red Lotus secretly said, "He's not simple." "Princess." Jun Changshao slowed down and walked side by side with her. He whispered, "Have you thought it through?" Princess Red Lotus said, "Not yet." Jun Changshao said, "Only I can nurture a genius like you. Thinking about it a little longer is a waste of your life." "Is that so?" Princess Red Lotus smiled. Her smile was very charming. Jun Changshao knew that she doubted his words, so he shook his head and said, "When you become an Iron Bone disciple, you will understand if I'm exaggerating."